I'm on the mic now. What's up, friends? How are you? How is everyone doing? It's Tuesday. It's been an ice storm in Portland. I am tired. Let me get a little note up in the chat. Let everyone know that we are, in fact, live. And then I'll come back over here and I'll look at stuff. What do we got here? Why is this not in streamer mode? You, quiet. Okay. All right. Cool. Hello. Hi. Friends. What up? Oh, hey Todd, how you doing? V-Dog? Mark, these are good emoji. I don't know these ones. What's up, Sazad? Francesco? Oh boy. All right. Todd, speaking of, I guess, seeing your face reminded me, that hot sauce, that garden habanero hot sauce that you sent me, that is fire. It's so good. We eat that on everything. Not Poland, Portland in the United States. It's about 2 hours south of Seattle on the West Coast. Birthday entertainment for the next hour. You got it. Happy birthday, my friend. What's up, Mobashir? What's up, Christian? How are you? Yes, that sauce is so freaking good. Let me, for anybody who is a hot sauce friend or a hot sauce enthusiast, let me see if I can find this sauce. It is called... Todd, you might have to help me. What's the name of this company? Because there's a lot of garden habanero hot sauce out here. Here it is. Here it is. Big Reds. This one here. Get in there. This is a very good hot sauce. It's like spicy without being, I don't know, you know, sometimes you eat something and it's like, it's spicy and it just feels like it's spicy because they wanted it to be as spicy as they could make something. There's no like flavor, there's no value add, it's just sort of like burning. This isn't that. This is spicy. Well, I don't know, it's like habanero spicy, so it's not, you know, this isn't like blow your head off spice. But it is very flavorful and it's really good. We've been putting it on eggs, like doing scrambled eggs in the morning, put a little cheese, little habanero hot sauce. That is the jam. Where am I working these days? I am working for myself. Learn with Jason is a full-time gig these days. So I'm out here doing stuff like this and trying to figure out how to make it pay the bills. What that means practically is I partner with a lot of companies and help them make stuff. So there are, you know, I'll help them do tutorials. I'll help companies with developer experience in-house. I will help them make different kinds of videos. I'm working toward, like, what I want to be doing is almost exclusively helping companies make story-based videos. So like reality competition shows or docuseries or things along those lines, as well as some like advertising work, because it's really fun for me to do ad work. I don't think there's an uptime command anymore, but I've been live for about 4 minutes, so welcome. You're right on time. What's up, Francesco? How you doing? Oh, Fossabot actually works now. Cool. Oh, thank you, Siddharth. I appreciate that. I'm still trying to figure out exactly how I want to manage things, because my channel feels very scattered. Like, I have content on general philosophy, I have content on career, I have content on tech, I have building content. I have, collaborative content. And I don't think that all of that content is for everybody who watches. And I do think that is, I don't know, I'm not quite sure how to handle that. I was talking to Coder. I don't know if everybody knows Coder. Let me pull up the screen here so I can share this. Here is this. There she is. So I was talking to Coder because she has this channel and then also a longer channel that I don't know what is it Coder Builds maybe? No, that's not it. Oh no. Well, I'm not going to be able to find this now. But anyway, she ended up splitting her channel. One for shorter stuff and one for longer stuff. And I know that folks like Theo do that as well. And that is how a lot of folks kind of do all their different content. I just don't know what the right approach is, because also like every channel is one that you got to maintain, and I'm very bad at keeping everything going. What's up, Full Stack? What's up, Scott? Nice to meet you, Inode. Snadia, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Is there an Instagram account? There is. Let me show you. Or first, let me send a link to Coder because this is a good channel if you're not already watching it. And then I'm on Instagram at, what is my Instagram? Just Jay Lengstorf. If you follow me on TikTok or on like YouTube Shorts or anything, I don't know that there's anything on here that you wouldn't have already seen. But yeah, if you're an Instagrammer, get on the Instagram. Why not, right? I love Party Corgi Ducks. What's up, Guillaume? How you doing? Good to see you here. Sigma, what's Sigma OS? I don't know what Sigma OS is. Is that a thing that I'm supposed to know? Oh, the philosophy and mindset content on Instagram. Yeah, maybe that's the other thing I could do, is I could just like simplify, like get, instead of trying to post everything everywhere, just like put some of the content on Instagram and some of it on YouTube, and be okay about like not covering everything. And that's all right. People will find me wherever they want to be. What else do we got here? Smoky Habanero Chimichurri Reaper. Chimichurri Reaper, what? A large, yeah. I mean, Todd, I will take it. You don't have to, though. I can also order my own hot sauce, but I do appreciate it. My deadlift, bench, squat PRs. Okay, so once upon a time, I used to train with powerlifters. I don't look it now, but there was a point in time when I was strong. And so when I was younger, in my late 20s, I used to be able to, I think the most I ever benched was 325 pounds, not kilograms, obviously, because that would crush my whole body. But I think 325 pounds is my max bench. I think I squatted 450 once. And then I've deadlifted 500, 510, something like that. Like my big goal, there's a milestone in powerlifting, which is the 3-4-5, 300 bench, 400 squat, 500 dead. And so that was my big target. And I did eventually hit that. I don't think I'm anywhere near that today. I was at the gym the other week, and they had the deadlift out, and I was doing like 6 reps of 375. And that felt hard. So I don't think 500 was happening. Anyways, I don't know. One of these days I'm going to get back in shape. I've been watching my friend Joel. Joel Hooks has like been going to the gym steadily for a year now, and he looks so good. He's lost a bunch of weight. He's gotten a lot stronger. Like he's just looking so healthy. And he was like, I want to do this before I turn 50 because he's coming up on that. And I was like, God, man, I was like telling myself that, oh, it's probably too late for me. I'm past 35, but I'm not even 40 yet. I can clearly still do it if I'm willing to do the work. Yeah, if you know a social media person who's looking for work, like hit me up. I am not able to do full-time anything right now, but I would be interested in talking to somebody who is interested in contract work for sure. Oh no, this browser is Arc. I really like Arc as a browser. It's very good for, it helps me stay focused as a more of a like, I have a tendency, I don't need tabs, but I don't like to close tabs. And so what I like about Arc is that these tabs down here will close at the end of today without me doing anything. And so like when I'm over here, I'll be, working on, I don't know, whatever, like something like this. And when I'm in here, I need to be in here, but after today, I won't need to go back in here, right? And if I do need to, I can like pin it. I can decide to, what is it? It's move to demos pinned, or I think there's a button. Yeah, just Command D sticks it to pinned. And so this now won't get closed, but this one, because it's not in my like pinned tabs, will get cleared at the end of the day. I think it's after 12 or 24 hours, something like that. And so it's really good for just, making me be intentional about stuff. Like I don't really need any of these tabs. If I'm opening something and I haven't dealt with it right away, I'm not going to deal with it. Like, let's be honest. Like, yeah, like I'll read it if I'm interested. And if I'm not going to read it, like keeping it open isn't going to suddenly make me interested, Instagrammer, absolutely, absolutely. I use Instagram mostly for keeping up on the Portland food scene because like restaurants, one of the greatest tragedies of web dev is that we made it so hard to have your own website through various nonsense that restaurants don't have their own websites anymore. They have Instagram. They don't update their websites. A lot of times they don't even bother. Like their website is just a link to their Instagram basically, or their Facebook or wherever they go. And so I tried years ago to get out of the whole Facebook meta everything. Cause I think I have Facebook accounts, but I haven't checked them for 10 years now. But the Instagram stuff, I stopped using that a long time ago, and then just couldn't, because every time I needed something, I had to like borrow my wife's phone to look at Instagram so that I could see what the restaurant was doing. And I was like, this is silly. I need an Instagram account. So that's that's how I ended up with an Instagram. And then I decided if I had it, I might as well use it. So now I'm posting crap. What's up, Jacob? How you doing? Thank you. This is a hat. This is a Postman hat. I saw somebody else ask that down here. Snania, yes, it is a Postman cap. I got it from Joyce at Postman. She rules. You're better habit. That's how Marissa feels whenever I sell a corgi duck, which I guess is a good opportunity for me to shamelessly. Whoa! Oh, store, not shop. I should probably make a redirect for that. Here we go. These. Every time I sell one of these, she's like, "Oh, thank God," because I think I have like 800 of them left or something like that. My inventory is much higher than it should be because the minimum orders to make a custom corgi duck is very high. You're inundated by programmers when PR means boy. Yes, I agree. 5x5 dumbbell program at home. Nice. Yeah, I mean, I work out a couple times a week. I'm just doing, my focus lately has been on like the functional stuff. So a lot of body weight stuff and things like that because I've been thinking about long-term joint health and like being able to sit down and stand up without pain, like that kind of stuff. But yeah. Just take it slower than you have before. Yeah, exactly. That's sort of where I'm at, right? Is like I go, I work out. The you know the challenge is always like balancing the how easy it is to get off track with this stuff. Like, go to a conference, you're gone for 4 days, and then so you've missed a week, and then you come back and you're tired and you want to recover, so you make the excuse that I'll go back next week, and then it's been a month since you worked out, and you're like, crap, I got to get back on schedule, and so it always feels like you're restarting. And the people who I know who have done a really good job of this, they've just done a better job of like, I'm traveling, so they found a gym that they can go to while they're there, and they like pre-book the appointments so that they like already have an itinerary when they get into town. I'm also somebody who really hates an itinerary. I don't know what it is about that. There's something that like something in me rebels about having a strict routine. Like, I absolutely thrive on a routine, and I hate having one. If if that makes sense. Like, if I wake up and every minute of my day is scheduled, that tends to make me more productive, because like a deadline means, if I know that I've got 3 hours to get something done and then I have to leave, I will get that thing done. If I've got all day to get the same thing done, I'll probably barely finish it by the time I head home for the day, despite having an extra 5 hours, right? Like, it doesn't make me more productive to be completely unstructured. However, the feeling that like I never get to just like sit still also makes me it gives me like this feeling of being kind of trapped or constricted, and I hate that. So I like rebel against strict schedules. One of my favorite periods of time in my life was, we spent a couple years traveling, and so we were in Asia, and like, you just can't have a lot of meetings when you're in like halfway around the world from all the people you work with. So all of the meeting times would have been at like 3 o'clock in the morning. So of course, I figured out how to have one meeting a day at 11 p.m. at most. Usually it was like closer to 2 meetings a week, where we would just kind of go over what had been done, set some new expectations, and set a deadline. And then I would do work in that intervening time to get ready for the next meeting. And what that meant from a schedule standpoint is like, I didn't set an alarm. I didn't have any meetings to get ready for. So really the only things that I was beholden to were like eating and sleeping in terms of stuff I had to do. And then the other thing was, and this was kind of a dual-edged sword, is like, we also didn't have a community really. We didn't know anyone, because we were in a place that we'd been there for 2 weeks. We didn't speak the language. We didn't know any locals. And so you don't have like a social group either. So there was nobody to go do anything with. There was nobody to make plans with. So basically it was me and my wife, partner at the time, just like chilling in Chiang Mai with nothing to do. No schedule, no plan whatsoever. And for her, I think that was hard, because like she gets a little stir crazy without a community. That's one of the major reasons that we moved back to Portland, was to have a community. But the unstructuredness of it, where you can sit until you have the urge to do something, and then you can do that thing until you're sick of it, and then when you get hungry, you can eat something. You know what I mean? Like, you're just living on a very like follow what's interesting right now kind of vibe. I miss that sometimes. I don't miss the loneliness. I don't miss the disconnect of being, far away from everybody and not knowing anybody and not really being able to communicate. So, it's like major trade-offs, but there was something special about this idea of like, you have complete self-determination when it comes to your time. You don't have to worry about whether or not you're going to be late for something or inconvenience somebody who's waiting on you or any of those things. Common question, but how do I balance professional life and personal? What a wonderful segue, me. So I am very much of a mind that the idea is that we get a job because you need to have a means to survive, right? Like we for better or worse, in order to exist in modern society, you need to have income. that income needs to serve you in the way of, like, you buy food, you buy shelter, you buy clothing, you buy experiences. Like, everything costs money, right? That's a bummer, but it's the fact of the thing. And I think that we, at some point, have mostly lost track of the purpose of work, right? Like, we work because working gives us access to the things that are important. And what I mean by that is not that working gives us meaning, or that working gives us like that working is what's important, or that the money we get is what's important. What I mean is, working gives us the resources, the money, to then access the things that are important to us. So, you know, they say you work for a living, and what that means to me is that you have a job because you want to live a life. And so the job always needs to be in service of the life you want to live. And that means choosing where your trade-offs are and where your focus is, right? So early on in your career, the trade-off well, let me say this from my perspective instead of like doing broad statements here. But early on in my career, the trade-offs that I made were in service of growing my career. I knew, or I believed, that if I focused more on work and on growing my career, I would have more resources that would allow me to do more stuff later. And because of that, the trade-off I was willing to make, like the thing I optimized for, was career growth. And that meant the trade-off of I didn't have as much of a social life. I had one or two friends. We hung out sometimes. I didn't have any meaningful relationships. You know, I wasn't able to keep a good relationship because my focus wasn't on my partner. My focus was on my work, right? So that made it challenging for me from a social standpoint, from a personal growth standpoint, because all of my energy was going into my professional growth. And what I found was that it really, really mattered for me to make that professional growth, because it enabled me to do some of the stuff that I can do today. And I do think that is a trade-off that we can choose to make at any point in our lives. We can say, all right, personal stuff is taking a backseat. I'm focusing on professional stuff. But being aware of what that means, like what you're giving up when you make that choice, is important, because you are giving something up, right? You can't have it all. So then later, I found that my target had always been, I wanted to make 10 grand a month. That felt to me like enough money. You can pay your bills. I didn't have to look at prices on groceries. I could just sort of live comfortably. But when I hit that, so I did hit that. I've had a good career. When I hit that, my first instinct was to just up the number. Like, well, okay, I'm going to make more now. I want to make $200,000 a year. I want to make $250,000 a year, whatever it is. And I was like, I kept saying like, oh, the next number will make me happy. The next number will make me happy. And there's some research that's been done that, money absolutely can buy happiness, but only to a point. And I think what the research says is it gives some hard numbers, but the spirit of the research, and I think what the research is realizing with science, is the emotional impact of money. Because when you don't have money, everything is stressful. You are one broken bone away from absolute ruin. You are like one mistake away from having to choose between paying rent and buying groceries. Like that constant existential dread of, if I screw up, I have to make not just like inconvenient decisions, like, oh, I can't buy that toy that I wanted, but like truly terrible decisions. I'm going to eat ramen for 3 days and I'm going to feel like shit because I screwed up on my budgeting and I have to pay all my money into rent, right? The debt, the stuff like that just, it makes being broke is like being constantly in a state of threat, right? So once you make enough money that you don't feel that way, and I think at the time they did the study, it was about 75 grand. I think adjusted for inflation, it's closer to 105 or 110,000. Once you clear that line, you don't have that constant set of physical threat that you are at risk at every moment. Like you can just sort of live your life. You can pay your bills. Obviously you can make terrible decisions at any income level. You can always find a way to be broke and stressed. But from a like getting by standpoint, if you can clear 6 figures, you start to get to the point where you just feel like, okay, I have money. And as long as I'm not irresponsible with my money, I don't have to worry about money anymore. It's not like a thing in the back of my head that's always like, oh my God, what am I going to do? How am I going to get through this month? That's the point where money has bought happiness. So then if you go further, if you start saying, well, okay, well, if 100 grand made me happy, then 200 grand will make me really happy. What they found in this study was that the happiness just plateaus. Like you can't buy more happiness with more money. You can get past the existential dread, like that feeling of fight or flight that not having money creates, right? So when you clear that, you've absolutely bought happiness. That's what money buys you. But it won't buy you fulfillment, right? And so once I cleared that number and I started looking for my next number, I started to feel really hollow and kind of unhappy. And what it felt like, the way I've described this before is that like ambition is sort of a it's like a rocket ship or something that moves in a straight line. And when you have goals, your goals sort of create targets for your ambition to shoot toward. And when the goals start to become less fulfilling, the ambition starts to like push past the limits of those, and the act of pushing past the limits of your imagination or the limits of what you can sort of envision for yourself, it starts to create this vacuum, which is when you hear about people talking about their existential crises or that pit of despair, or like when you see somebody who, what do you get for the guy who has everything and he's miserable, right? Like that sort of commentary. I think that is somebody who lost sight of why goals exist and why we live. They're looking at metrics. They're not looking at like qualitative outcomes. So this is a really long walk to answering your question about balancing professional life and personal life. But the question that I always ask myself is like, what am I optimizing for right now? And when I was younger, I was optimizing for clearing that hurdle where money wasn't something that caused me stress. And I traded off my like personal life for it. These days, I don't do that. I've cleared, I'm very fortunate. I make enough money to live in Portland, and my wife doesn't work, and like we're good. We're like, everything's fine on the money front. So the making more money isn't really interesting to me. What's interesting to me is getting more and more autonomy over how I make money, if that makes sense, right? So if I think about my personal life and my professional life, right now, I get to do on my personal life roughly anything that I want to. And what I mean by that is like, what I want to do in my personal life is cook or consume dinners with my friends. I want to have enough time to like watch that Netflix show that everybody's talking about. I want to have the freedom to chase down a hobby if I want to, like, play some video games or build something like this set wall behind me. I built that. It was my first and only so far DIY woodworking project. Don't lean on it. I want to be able to take a couple days to, go to a little hotel on the coast with my wife and do nothing, like leave my computer at home, right? And in my personal life, I have the ability to do that because I've been able to shape my career around leaving me like time flexibility. And that also means that like when I'm working, I'm working. And there are still days when I'll work 12 hours because I like, oh, I got to get these things done. And it's, I got to shoot a couple things. I got to edit them. I got to write some code. I got to, do all the updates and admin and stuff like that. I spend a ton of my time in sales calls right now. Probably 50% of my week is in various forms of sales calls. So, it's like, I'm still working hard, but now my time is more determined by when I want to work as opposed to like I must be here from 9 to 5 every day. But that being said, like I also built in a commute. Like I'm in a studio. This is my house. I drive here, or when I can, I ride my bike here. But like this is the life that I wanted to build for myself. Like I have sort of maneuvered things to be the way that I want them to be right now. What I'm optimizing for right now is what I'm doing, right? And I think so when it comes to work-life balance, like for me, the biggest thing is sitting down and really getting a grip on like, what is the most important thing to me right now? Like if the most important thing is my friends and family, then start there. Determine what does success look like? Okay, my goal is to focus on my friends and family. How do I know I've done that? Is it a weekly family dinner? Is it is it some kind of, are we playing D&D with a group of friends every couple of weeks? Are we, like, what does it mean? Are we meeting a different friend for dinner every week? Something like making those goals for myself that I can say, like, I am in fact focusing on the things that I said were important to me. And then after that, you fit everything else around it, right? Like if you look at a calendar is actually a great way to figure out what you've prioritized, because if you look at what is on your calendar, that's what you're prioritizing. Just straight up, like that's what that you have given these things precedence in your life because they're the ones that blocked out your time. So if you look at my calendar, you'll see that I've got like my gym time is blocked out first. That's a standing recurring thing. Nobody can book over it. My my weekends standing blocked out. That's time for me, my friends, my family. There are a couple times throughout the week that I like this stream and my Thursday stream. Those are standing blocked out. Like that's what I'm building my life around, right? And everything else has to fit into the cracks. And for that to work though, like, it takes effort, right? Like I get to do that because I've worked to a point where I can be my own boss. And if I want to block off most of Wednesday so that I can like go to the sauna and go to the gym, I'm allowed to do that because the only person who could fire me is me. When I worked at Netlify, I was able to block off chunks for going to the gym and stuff like I couldn't take a half day or anything, but I had gotten to the point where I was able to have some of that self-determination and say, these are the times that I need for me, and we'll find a place to book that works. And like my concession to that was I also worked 7 to 3 to accommodate European meetings, right? So, it always takes, I wasn't just like drawing a line in the sand saying like, I will not flex. I made compromises as well. I started at a much earlier work day to make up for the fact that I needed to be able to take half of, Friday to go do a bunch of self-care stuff. So that's like the longest answer ever to that question. But to me, it's very, I don't know, it's such a personal thing. And so I feel that context is relevant when trying to answer that question and how I got to the way that I do it. But anyways, I don't know. Is that even a useful answer? Like, should I try to nutshell that? Let me try to nutshell that. I balance my personal and professional life by first figuring out what I want to prioritize. Then I make sure that the thing I'm prioritizing shows up on my calendar first and has standing blocks of time dedicated to it. And then everything else gets scheduled around that. And that allows me to make sure that the things I care about the most are the things that get attention first and get first dibs on my time. Okay. Somebody clip that because I almost made sense. Have I checked out Raycast? I have checked out Raycast. I want to, I use Alfred not because I have any opinion about what's better, but because it was the first one I tried and it did enough. And I also need to clarify that I am not a power user of any sort. Like, I use Alfred as basically a glorified Finder. I think I use one or two, like I use the clipboard history, and I have a couple snippets, like quite literally 3 snippets. And that's it. I don't use anything else in Alfred. And I feel like in Raycast I would be the same. I think the only thing I would add from Raycast if I were to switch over is I would most likely also use their window management, because right now I use something called Yabai. And I like Yabai, but it is a pain to manage. It requires a whole bunch of extra command line-y crap that I don't really care about. And I feel like Raycast is 90% as good and doesn't require any of that. But yeah. Oh yeah, Adam, you are on my mind. So Adam is coming in next week. We're gonna do Learn with Jason live in studio. So got a plan for rearranging this to be a 2-person setup, and also we're gonna do some really fun stuff that I'm not gonna tell anybody about, and it's just gonna be a surprise. I don't know that I look like the mountain. You haven't seen me in profile. Let me see. There's a couple questions that I'm going to get back to. So if it seems like I'm skipping you, I promise you that I'm not. Arc on memory management. As far as I can tell, Arc does not have that same issue that I've had with Chrome, where it like has a slow memory leak that eventually crashes it. And I keep it open for a long time. So it seems good. I don't know. Hopefully, fingers crossed. What else? Take the Moonlander. Man, I love this Moonlander. It's been really, really good. Thank you for the message, Charles. I appreciate it. Vox Ergo mouse. I don't know these ones. Hold on. Let me look at it. Vox Ergo mouse. Ergo. Come on, I just want to see a picture of it. Is it this one? Oh, wait. I think this is the one my wife uses. I have something like this, a vertical mouse that that Marissa started using, and she really likes it. I use a trackpad, and I don't know how to function without a track. It's like really hard for me to function without a trackpad, so I haven't been able to switch off of it. Like I need the on a trackpad you have like the pinch to zoom and like the 2-finger swipe and everything. And I know that there's shortcuts for some of this, but like I've noticed that on my at home when I plug in, I have a gaming mouse that I use, and I've noticed that like you can zoom with I think command and the click wheel. That the precision of the click wheel is too coarse, and I feel like it's popping in and out too much, and I don't like it. I don't know. I haven't found a good solution. I do feel like it would be better for me ergonomically to not be using a trackpad, but I can't find a way to get what I want. Like I want that touch interface, that multi-touch interface. And I haven't seen a way to combine the ergonomics of a Magic Mouse with the multi-touch interface. There is a stream on LinkedIn because there's a button in this interface that I can push that puts it on LinkedIn. So you are welcome. Exercises I do daily, I don't know. I don't think I have anything that I'm like, I'm not a standard practice type of person. Like I batch things. Like I think this might be like an ADD thing. I've never been diagnosed. I don't know if I actually have it, but sometimes I feel like I do. I like to go hard on something and then forget about it, and then go hard on the next thing and then forget about it. And I just keep myself kind of cycling with lists so that I'm always moving on to something that I can focus on really hard. I have a hard, if I'm like popping between things, I don't get very much done. And when my day gets split up with like, I got to do this thing, and then I got to do this thing, and then I got to do this thing, I find that by the third thing, I'm just out of energy for the day. Like, and I don't get anything done. Let's see. Got a couple questions here that I'm going to go to. Yo, you're going to a head chef role? Hell yeah. I know. I don't know if that makes you happy or not, but that makes me happy. That's like, I want to go back. I want to go back into the food industry, but I'm also scared of it. What's up, Ace? How you doing? Yeah, money is tricky because it feels like a high score, but you can never actually get the high score because even if you have the most money of anybody that's alive, there's still like one more dollar and one more dollar. And I think that's what makes people evil, is they lose sight of the purpose of money, and they just think about getting money. And it's easy to start making justifications about like why you would do a certain thing when what you're trying to do is a number. Like when everything gets converted to a spreadsheet, it's very easy. You don't have empathy toward numbers. A spreadsheet can't evoke feelings. So it flattens the world and turns it into this series of decisions that are very like coldly, I don't know. Like, I think it's okay to be utilitarian. Like, things should serve a purpose, and you should have things in your life that bring you value. So utilitarianism is fine, but when it crosses over into like, I'm okay if somebody suffers because it makes the spreadsheet look better. I don't know. I'm not okay with that. That feels worse. Yeah, the needing more money treadmill. It just sucks. Like, I think if you find, yeah, money buys freedom to be happy. I actually think that's a good way to look at it, because it doesn't buy the happiness. It buys you the freedom from worry. And that's a very important distinction, I think. One has to spend it first. I think that's kind of, yeah, like buying experiences. I think that makes sense. I like that. Did Joel help me with the wall? No, Jack Harrington did. So Jack Harrington is, if you don't know, a YouTuber. Does a lot of good stuff on React, on just web dev, JavaScript, TypeScript, et cetera, et cetera. Very good, very, very good. And yeah, he helped me build this stuff. He's got a bunch of tools, does like really good woodworking. Trudging on the road to happiness. There it is. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. The 4 web dev stuff is so fun, and I'm trying to do more of it. We got more coming. We've got a couple more episodes that have been recorded. We're editing now, so I think hopefully next week I'm going to try to get one up. We'll see. We'll see if we can do it. But yeah, we'll good. We'll do it. We'll make it happen. Good advice is put everything on your calendar. I'm not kidding. As soon as you can see how quickly your time fills up, it gets much harder to I always said I would find time to do things later, and what I've noticed is that we don't. I think I've even written a blog post about this way back in the day. Did I? Let's see. Did I do this? No. I might have taken it down. I don't know. I had this post where basically my assertion is like you don't find time for things, you make time for things. And we have the same number of hours in every day, and like if we're not actively prioritizing the things that are most important to us, then they get pushed into the margins, and all the energy goes into the things that get planned for. I'll give you an example. I don't know if you've ever had a day like this, but you get up and you're like, I want to work on my side project. But first, I have to go to the grocery store, I have to get my hair cut, I have to pay all my bills, I have to return these emails. And then by, 3 p.m., 4 p.m., you've done all that, but you have zero energy left to do the thing that was going to be your fun thing, right? And like, obviously, everything else that I just listed has to get done. But what I've noticed is that I can, even when I'm exhausted, I can grocery shop, right? I can't do a hobby project when I'm exhausted. So if I schedule the hobby project and I know that I'm going to stop at 3 and then go to the grocery store and get my hair cut and pay the bills, then I can do that stuff when I'm tired, right? Because I have to. It's just a thing. And also it's not like whatever that like heavy creative energy that is that's required to do those sorts of things. It's not as intense. So I find that if I like flip the precedence of things where, I'm going to grocery shop on the way home from the studio, because the studio is where I'm going to go to do the thing that is important to me. That tends to lead to me actually getting stuff done, because I've prioritized it, right? And it's really, really easy to write it on the calendar and then not do it, but it is what it is. What's up, Prabhav? How you doing? Let's see. How do you know what you don't know without reading all of MDN? Just being open to new information. Like, one of the things that I do is whenever I see somebody doing something creative, I follow them on social media, wherever they post. And I just try to scan that stuff because I want to see what people are doing. And most of the time, I either have seen it and it's not relevant to me, or I don't quite understand what they're talking about, but whatever, I'll just kind of let myself marinate in the unknown. And then every once in a while, they'll show me something and I'm like, wait, I just did something like this and what they did looks easier. Let me dig. And then I end up, on MDN or on some tutorial or wherever, digging into how these things work. And, it leads to me learning something new, right? The other thing is to always I always find an excuse to like build with something new. I wanted to learn about the new gradient and color stuff in CSS. And so I gave myself a challenge to I wanted to build a page for partners. I can show you this. So I built this page, and my challenge was I wanted to use the new OKLCH color spaces. And I didn't really know about them, but I knew enough, right? So I did, there's some gradients here, there's some blend modes. If you watch this, you'll see that the gradient is actually animating around this button. And it's got some subtle things like the gradient. I don't know if it's really coming through on video, but the gradient shifts and stuff as you mouse over it. I wanted to play with some scroll timeline stuff, so you can see here these animate as you come in and out. So this is some CSS scroll animation timeline, and I like this here, this little dimming as you scroll in. That's CSS scroll animation. So all of these things were me realizing that something was possible, having a practical application for it, and deciding I was going to make it work, right? Could I have done this in a million different ways that would have been easier for me? 100%. Could I have just done this on a page builder because really all I'm doing is posting a link to my email? 1000% yes. But in doing it this way, I got to learn something about CSS that I didn't already know. And now I still have to look it up a little bit, but I have a much better sense of I know that I can use this for this problem that I'm having, so I know what to look up. And I'm just looking for a reminder on the syntax as opposed to a what ideas are there? I'm not searching for new knowledge. I'm reminding myself of something that I've used before. Companies doing good SaaS design. I don't know, man. I feel oddly jaded about this because I feel like they all look the same. And I think that at a certain point there is you end up with convergence on good patterns, and that's a good thing. Like, it's predictable. When I go to a dashboard, I can assume that things will be in the same place and work roughly the same. But I don't know. I feel like everything looks like the linear homepage. Like this style is like everything looks like this now. Because if we go here and then we go to AuthKit, right? It's like it's different, but it's not different. And then if we look at the new clerk, like it's not in dark mode, but it's like, same vibes. And then we can go to, let's for sell. Yeah, it's basically the same. And it's like we're not pushing the envelope anymore, And I think like Stripe is the same. Like we've all just sort of, I guess Stripe has a little bit of vibe going on, but I don't know, man. It just feels like we've converged on a thing, then we've just decided that's the way that things will be, and that's fine. I don't mind. It's probably better that things are predictable than that things are like full blown chaos mystery meat, and that's whatever, it is what it is. But I do have, I don't know. It's hard for me to say like, wow. Like there's sites that look cool, but usually it's like a subtle touch within the otherwise generally same setup. Oh, I took so long answering that question that Prabhat moved platforms. Hi, buddy. Sorry. Why? Yeah. So I think the reason that extensions like Grease Monkey and Stylus aren't as popular, I think that it is a very dedicated person who will customize somebody else's website. And I think that niche of people who want to do that work it's small, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But I think that like, when I think about the web, the only reason I would customize somebody else's website is if it was broken. And if somebody else's website is broken, my instinct is usually to find their competitor and hope their site isn't broken, as opposed to fixing it myself, right? And I think that's because where I'm at in my career, I guess, is like the customizations are fragile, and like I don't care enough about these projects. I think a lot of people sort of fall into that camp. Like they like the internet. They don't necessarily care about like making it, like they don't want to customize everything. And when you do customize something, that customization lasts for, a couple weeks, and then the next release breaks it. And I used to use this extension that would clean up Twitter. And it would like take out the suggested posts and ads and the trending sidebar, and just kind of turn it back into like, hey, these are the people you follow and what they said. And I loved it. But it broke every 2 weeks because Twitter would do some stupid push, and that push would like change the class names or rename everything. And for all I know, they did it maliciously because they knew that people were writing these extensions. And so the extension would break, right? And I was like, I'm not spending the effort to clean this up. It's just not worth it to me. Yeah, the trackpad, like for real, the trackpad is I don't know how you get away. CLI Vim, I'm sure it is. I don't care enough. I've tried to be a Vim person many times. I've learned that I will probably never be a Vim person. Mechanical keyboards. So here's what I have decided about mechanical keyboards. I don't care about a mechanical keyboard like traditional layout. So the Apple, little butterfly keys that are on the laptop versus a clicky clacky, like same QWERTY layout keyboard. Don't care. They like one is easier for me to put my laptop up on a stand and like have the keyboard in front of me. But when I had a Bluetooth Apple keyboard, the little flat one, I didn't care. It was fine. There are like such minor differences in it. However, the switch to this Moonlander, which I think you can see in the shot here. If I, let's see, can I just, I'll lift it up a little bit. Here's my Moonlander, which you can sort of see. This is half of it. And so the split keyboard and the tenting of it, that part has actually, like, I'm a believer in this, and there's a lot of reasons that I think it's a good keyboard. There is the, is there an easy way? You know what, I'm not going to bother. If, like, it has a slightly better layout for ergonomics, so my wrist doesn't hurt when I use it. It's also got the concept of layers, and so layers are a deep rabbit hole, and I do not recommend getting into it unless you've got time, because it's very much like a rewiring your brain thing. It took me about 3 weeks to be able to type on this keyboard. I think my words per minute went down to about 15 for the few weeks, and if I didn't have severe wrist pain, I wouldn't have made the switch. Like, I wouldn't have stuck through it. So this keyboard, the layering part of it is really interesting, because when you look at the keyboard, it has the standard keys, but then I can hold down a button in the bottom left and it changes all the keys to something that I've mapped them to, right? So I've, for example, made a numpad out of Y, U, I, H, J, K, N, M, pointy boy, and the whatever's under M on the standard keyboard. I guess it's the space bar on the standard keyboard. On here, it's the up arrow. I've remapped those to be a numpad so that I can, like, use a standard numpad. And that's great. It's super helpful. I also have, I play Fortnite, right? So I have another mapping where I've moved all the keybinds for Fortnite over onto just the left half of the keyboard, so that I can do all my controls with just one part of the keyboard on the table, and, like, the other half can get tucked away so that I don't, I can use the rest of that space for my mouse. So for, like, gaming, for custom stuff, I have another layer that I thought I would use more that I don't, which is all the braces on the home row, so that I can type the braces, like pointy boys, curly boys, etc., without having to leave the home row. Turns out I don't do that. It just hasn't been something that I've used. I could probably train myself to do it, but I don't. Let's see. I don't know what that one is. Yeah, push you to get fit for the role. I can see that, like, being on your feet that long that's challenging. The love of money is the root of all evil is distinct from the money. Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. Top 3 spicy web dev takes. I don't have spicy web dev takes, man. I have optimism. Like, here's what I got for 2024. I think what we're going to see in 2024 is we saw the rumblings of, like, a great leap forward in web dev in 23. I think we're going to see even more of that in 24, and my hope and my gut feel is that what we're going to see in 2024 is a recognition that we've hit a level of maturity in the React and like JavaScript framework ecosystem that we can pull some of those concepts into the platform itself. So we've seen some discussion about this, like signals, for example, are in the early stages of becoming part of the platform, and some of the other core features are like in various levels of discussion on how they would work as platform level implementations. And so I think in the same way that jQuery made this huge leap forward for the web by unifying the JavaScript landscape, I think what React and other JavaScript frameworks have done in that time is given us a shared language that we all agree on. We know that we want components, like component-driven UI. Clearly, I don't think anybody's not doing components. Like, all the frameworks have some level of component. The only thing that's different is the nuances of how those are put together. And we're starting to converge on some things that I think are, like, good, like the single file component thing that we're seeing in Vue first, in Svelte, in Astro. It's good. It's a good pattern. I have a suspicion that we'll start to see that stuff really mature into something that can be a platform primitive, and we'll start to see like the idea of a framework in the platform, not in the mature like has state management, has all the bells and whistles of a mature framework, and we'll still have frameworks for that stuff. But I think we might get to the point where you don't need 35 kilobytes of JavaScript to have component-based web architecture. And I think that's really cool. We've also, we've seen the huge acceleration of CSS advancement, and I don't think we're going to see that slow down. So I'm really, really excited about that. And yeah, so like, I guess there are additional requests for my stuff like that. But yeah, I think that's what we're going to see is more. I think the platform is going to do more and more, and I'm very hopeful that is embraced as a good thing. I don't know, like the goal of jQuery was always to become obsolete, and they like once the platform caught up, the creators of jQuery were like, yeah, all right, let jQuery fade, and obviously it hasn't. It's still like I think jQuery is on something like 70% of websites, which by comparison React is on like 4% of websites, so its scope is enormous. But the creators of jQuery were like, no, we don't need it anymore. We can move on and like enjoy the fact that the platform adopted the best parts of jQuery. My hope is that we get the same thing with something like React. And that we see that as a moment to celebrate, not as like, oh, React is gone. No, it's like, no, that's amazing. React did such a good job that we were able to like standardize a new feature set for the platform. That's dope. That's an incredible achievement. Have I ever had any difficulty delegating tasks? Constantly. I like everything is difficult to delegate because like one, when you work for yourself, you can work with contractors or you can hire people. And hiring is so terrifying. I did it when I was younger. I had an agency. I decided to hire full-time employees, and I had 2 employees, and I ended up having to lay one of them off because I like could not keep the money coming in steady enough. That was like the worst feeling in the entire world. And I don't want to do that again. So for me, like hiring is something that I am very, very nervous about and really, really resistant to at any level. I mean, like when I was at Netlify, I didn't grow my teams. Like I was like kind of like opposed to growing my teams, and I ended up like we grew the docs team by a couple headcount because there was legitimate need, but like the DevRel team, we didn't grow. It was like, okay, if we grow though, that expands what we need to get done and expands the pressure and expands the risk. And ultimately, like our problem isn't that we're short on hands, it's that we're short on focus, right? And I think that's also like a core belief of mine is that I feel that a lot of times we use hiring as an excuse to like not think about what we should be focused on. And I still do that. Like I am, you can look at my channel right now and see how unfocused I am in terms of what I'm doing. Like my content is all over the place. And a lot of that is because I feel like I'm in a little bit of an experimentation mode. Like I'm just making everything I can think of and seeing what I enjoy and what's, what do y'all care about? Which also like, if you've got stuff you want to see me do, like tell me, because I am still very much trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. But so if I expand my footprint by delegating more tasks, then I'm not necessarily getting more done. I'm just creating more surface area. And that is sometimes a good thing, but oftentimes it's an excuse for me to not look at the things I'm doing and decide which ones are actually important. Where delegation works, in my opinion, is If you can take the thing that you need done and write it out as a checklist that has no variance. Like, I'll give you an example. I work with Aiden on this channel to like book episodes and put things, like schedule things for social media and get descriptions up on YouTube and stuff like that. And the way that works is we just have a checklist. Like, it's these are the things that need to be true. You go here, you write this, you put this, you fill out this form, you fill out that form. And it's the same every time, right? There's nothing that's like due to taste. It's just like a job that needs to be done. And so Aiden and I worked on that checklist together. We figured out what it should be, and now he's able to do that job, and I don't have to micromanage at all, because it's a job that is in fact like a system. It's got that sort of like checklist vibe. Similarly with some of the editing stuff, like we've got formats for my show. Like, so you'll see that Learn with Jason follows a very specific format, and For Web Devs follows a very specific format. And if you even look at the Grow videos, they actually follow a pretty specific format. And that's because like Jeff and Chris, the folks I work with on editing, are, we work out like what works for this style of video, and then once we get a format, we're like, okay, this is what an episode, it's always an episode, what an episode of this looks like. So follow the format for the episode, and then the edits then are more about like the specific content, as opposed to me saying like, I don't know, it feels weird, like rearrange it like this. It's like, no, we've got a format for that. We can do that. So if you can checklist it, then you can delegate it. If you find that every time you're doing it, you're making small tweaks, you're going to drive the person you're trying to delegate to up a wall, and you'll end up doing it yourself, which makes the person you're delegating to feel helpless, and it makes you feel, either if you're self-aware, it makes you feel like a failure because you're not delegating well, or if you're not self-aware, it makes you feel like all the people around you are incompetent. And in both cases, it's bad news. So I only delegate if it's something that like I write the checklist and then I follow my checklist. And if I notice that I haven't changed my checklist in like a few weeks, okay, let's delegate. And then it also makes me resistant to just like ripping up the process because I'm bored, because I want to do that a lot. Like, I'm like, oh, I should try something new on Learn with Jason. And then I think about how much work it would be to rewrite the checklist with Aiden, and I don't do it because it ultimately, like, the format of Learn with Jason is not the value of it. And me trying to like put some little fun tweaks in there to keep myself from being bored with the layout, that doesn't help anybody. That doesn't make the show more valuable. It's just me entertaining myself. So that, I think, is, I don't know, delegation is very, very, very hard though. Because I don't think that it's like, people think of delegation as like, I've got work to do, I don't want to do it. Hey, you do my work. But we have so many opinions about our work and about the way that we want things done. And especially if it's like representative of us, we realize that we thought we didn't care until we see somebody else doing it. And then we care a lot and we want to fix what they're doing. That is not okay. Like, that's not delegation. That's straight up micromanaging. That's bad management. And so delegation, I think, should be taken as delegation is hard. It's a job. You are sitting down to like do this as a process that you are fully letting go of. And to do that, you got to sit down and understand that process inside and out so well that it, like, once you stop looking at it, you're confident that if it goes the way that you wrote down, you'll be happy with it every time. And if that's not the case, then you're not ready to delegate. Rant. Let's see. Stop saying I don't have time for that. Start saying that's not a priority for me right now. I love that. That's awesome, Ronnie. I love that one. Can I code when I'm hungry? I can't do, well, okay. Yes and no. Like, I can't do anything when I'm really hungry because my brain just ceases functioning and I get grumpy and I want to just like throw my computer. But I'm also always like, I'm always in that like, I could eat, you know? So yes, I can code when I'm hungry, but not when I'm really hungry. Is my yes. I swear the emo kid to web dev pipeline is strong. But I also think I was talking about this the other day, and I think there's a little bit of like selection bias because we like, as you know, Ronnie, you and I, and I think Adam and several other folks in here are from like punk or emo or post-hardcore bands, and we ended up in web dev, and so we recognize all the other musicians who came in to web dev. But then I was talking about it with some of my other friends, and what I was realizing is I don't think that it's like a musician to pipeline or musician to web pipeline. I think it's job that you really want to do but doesn't make money to web pipeline. Because I also know a lot of like journalists who ended up as web devs. I know a lot of teachers who ended up as web devs, because if you really want to do a job, but that job caps out at $35,000 a year and you've got no growth opportunities, you're going to look for something that pays more. And web dev promises like what everybody says is like, oh, get into web dev and like the floor is 80 grand a year, which I know is not true. I'm not saying that's what I believe. I'm saying that's what people say. So it's like, well, I can double my salary by becoming a web dev. Like, yeah, I'm going to do that. And then, you dream about going back to being a musician or a teacher or a journalist or a farmer or whatever the thing is that you were before. But yeah, I think it's the traditionally underpaid career to web dev pipeline. Where are we at? Auth kit linear. Oh, well, I mean, I don't know. Design is fine. Fortnite with a keyboard is definitely it's a little harder to start, but man, I tried to play Fortnite on an Xbox. I don't know how anybody does it. I truly don't. Like, I couldn't hit anything. We just got like we got it because Marissa wanted to play, and so I was going to be on the PC and she was going to be on Xbox, and like she just couldn't hit anything. And then I was like, oh well, maybe it's just because you haven't played a lot. And so I got on and it was so hard. I could not believe how hard it was to play Fortnite on the Xbox. I don't know how anybody does it. Keychron keyboards are dope. Let me actually pull those up. Keychron. These are, I mean, but I will say, I don't think there's any advantage to using this keyboard over a Mac keyboard. In terms of like, I don't think that this makes you better as a typist or as a coder or anything like that. It's just an aesthetic preference, I think. I think the one I was talking about is the Moonlander. And so the Moonlander this one's split, and there's a couple differences. So note here how these keys go straight up and down. Whereas if we go back to this Keychron, you see how the keys are like at an angle. So if you look at this straight up and down like this, you see how the keys aren't straight up and down. They're at this angle here. This is a specific choice made to minimize the amount of wrist movement as you type. So in an ortholinear keyboard, as you type, your hands are going straight up and down, and like each key is going up and down. When you're on a traditional keyboard, as you type, your hands are going, like, you have to kind of tilt your whole hand to get up and down the rows. And so it's harder on your wrists. The other thing that they do is these thumb pads replace like your space bar. And so for example, on mine, let's see, I have, this one for me is space. This one is backspace. And then these two I use as, they're like combo shortcut keys. So when I hold this one down, it's the same as holding down Command Alt Control and Shift at the same time. And then this one is the same as holding down Control Alt Shift. And then this one over here is my Enter key. And this one is my escape key. So it's a little hard to shift. Like, you remember, you have to learn to type again. It is hard to type on this thing. But instead of my hands being close together like this, I'm sitting shoulder width apart. Like my hands are shoulder width apart on my keyboard when I'm typing right now. my wrists aren't having to move as I try to get around the keys, and I don't have to do that like wrist reach for the like when you go for your escape key or whatever, and you're kind of like reaching all the way over here. On mine now, it's a thumb tap. So this one is specifically designed to change the way you type for ergonomic reasons. And then the layering thing is cool, and you can get keyboards with layers that are not split keyboards as well. Like these ones might have layers as well, but also these ones they're cool, and like the custom keycaps and the fun stuff you can do. Like I'm not discouraging anybody from getting one of these. They're dope. My contention is I don't think these have any impact on your. Like these don't make you better at anything. They're just another keyboard. They're a cool keyboard, but it's not like a, get one of these or else you're not a real dev, whatever. That I don't know. No, that's not true. Let's see. Where are we at? jQuery and Astro. I haven't seen that combo. Making things accessible for people with disabilities. Yeah, I think like we can build more and more of this in, and that's another reason that I'm excited about a lot of this going into the platform is like if we're not making combo boxes ourselves, the platform can give us an accessible combo box that all we have to do is use the platform and it's accessible. That's one of the reasons I really like this idea of moving more and more toward platform-based things, because the working groups, they're not going to ship something that's not accessible. And that means that if we use platform primitives, we're accessible by default, and then it's on us to not add things that make them inaccessible. And it takes some of the mental pressure off, I think, when we work on it that way, because it's very much like if you are starting from a point of being accessible, then everything that happens after that is you're just stacking on top of an accessible foundation. Whereas if you're working with stuff that is not accessible by default, then you're starting from a deficit and you have to kind of climb out of it, and that's hard. And it's tough when all the defaults aren't accessible, and you've got to now you got to be an accessibility expert just to use the tools because the tools didn't care about accessibility. That part is a bummer. Let's see. Oh, some good questions. I'm behind on the chat, so I'm just scanning and catching up, starring a few things. Wasn't in the metal punk bands, but yeah, friend of the band who did their web and poster. So I was the band member who actually probably should have been the friend of the band because I wasn't very talented, but I did do the web and posters. Used to think I wasn't really coding. Yeah, Rob, I think this is me too. Like I have noticed that there's a belief that like experienced devs just know all this stuff. And one of the reasons that I do this show live is so that y'all can see when I'm coding. Like I'm in the docs, I'm copy pasting, I don't know this stuff. I just know what to Google. And I think that is a very important distinction, and just remembering that nobody here is special. We've all just learned our own coping mechanisms, and we get faster at solving problems, not necessarily become immune to problems. Fostering accessibility from the concept phase, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Like there are too many things that I use that they have a statement that's like, we've written so much code that we can't afford to go back and make it accessible, but we are aware that it's inaccessible and it's important to us to fix it eventually, right? That is a bonkers statement. Like the idea that you could have gotten so far before you realized that it was inaccessible, that it is cost prohibitive to fix it because you've written so much inaccessible code, that is ruinous. Like that, I think that's the sort of thing that, I can see why accessibility advocates end up being so like grumpy. Like it's just being told over and over again, like, yeah, it's important to us. Well, but it's like not that important to us. Yeah, it's definitely a bummer. Got another web dev started making websites for bands. Love it. I love it. I mean, I think especially those of us who grew up in the age of like we were in our early teens at when the internet was a thing, like that, or people who grew up where the internet was a thing before they were born. I feel like more and more it's going to be people who played as kids and like found a spark that are going to have this great advantage going into the career, because I learned because the band needed a website, so I figured out how to make a website, and I wasn't very good, but I had fun. I was like, ooh, I bet if I built it again, it would be better. And so I made another website, and we were on the road a lot. We spent 8 hours a day driving between cities on tour, so I had a lot of time to just like dink around with the website and design posters and do whatever it was. So I got a lot of built-in practice just rebuilding and rebuilding and rebuilding, until I felt like I kind of knew what I was doing. And that was enough for me to start my career off of, right? And I think that's a cool thing. Let's dive into some of these questions that I start. So Malome or Malome, don't know where you're from. Don't know if I'm murdering your name. I apologize. Don't know if it's right time, but do you think as a front end to get a job should perfect in React or learn a new framework? I think there's this old saying that like you never get fired for choosing IBM. I think that's less true today, but that was like the industry standard for a long time. I think that right now React is that. You don't get fired for choosing React. It is a very popular, it's very widespread. Having React skills will make you employable. Like lots and lots and lots of companies have built their whole apps in React, and they need people who know React to maintain those and build new features and so on. I would say not learning React is a risk. Only learning React is fine. Okay, I want to be careful about how I say this, because I feel like there's a tendency for people to say, do exactly this and then you'll be successful. And that is not at all what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is, I think that there's like there's a tier list here of like strengths. And I've talked about this before. I think I've even diagrammed this before. Actually, let me see if my diagram's still here. Eraser. And did I do this? Hierarchy of professional skill development. I did. Okay. So basically when you're working on learning any set of skills, the order should be, you're going from employable to capable to flexible and adaptable to scalable, right? And what that means in terms of the pyramid here is, first you're trying to make sure that you have a skill set that gets you income. Because if you don't, we talked about this earlier, if you don't have money, nothing else really matters, right? If you're in a constant panic about whether you're going to pay the bills, let's not worry about the details. Let's get you to income first, right? And so learning React is a great way to shorten the path to income. If you are very good at React, there are lots of jobs that need React devs. Path to income. For growth potential, React has growth potential and probably will for a number of years. That being said, there is higher growth potential, I think, in learning the underlying pieces that make React work. And the reason I say that is I suspect, I feel like we're at a watershed moment here, right? Like the React of pre-server components and the React post-server components are two different frameworks, right? And I don't even know if they would, I'm sure that they would argue that because it's semantically incorrect, but I do think that that's true, because the pre-server components React was like, it's a view layer. It's a component-based view layer where your UI is a function of data. The new one is like, it's everything. It's handling your data. It's putting stuff on the servers. You're dealing with caching and all sorts of stuff like that. And so there's a high potential that this is the point where the community fractures and starts looking for something different. And we're starting to see that. Like, there is a lot of interest in Svelte. There's a lot of interest in signals. Angular is having a renaissance right now. Solid is pretty interesting. Quick is very interesting. Astro is making it less and less necessary to go all in on any framework because you can bring whichever one you want to a mostly web standards-based framework. Like, there's a possibility that this is the peak of React, right? And I'm saying that without any knowledge one way or the other. I'm just kind of reading the tea leaves of what I'm seeing in discussions. I've never seen frustration with React like I see now. And I think part of it is that, we don't know what React server components are going to look like in the long run. We only know what they look like in the Vercel world, because that's what Next.js did, is they built the Vercel flavor of React server components. And that one says, in order to use React, you have to pay Vercel. People don't like that. And justifiably so. If your options are pay Vercel or manage your own Docker container, most people don't want to do either of those things. And so I do think that there are a lot of people who are looking for alternatives, especially people who are early. And so if my options as a new dev are I can learn React up to a point, but then I can't really use all of the features of React unless I pay $19 a month to Vercel, I might look for, Svelte Kit or Solid Start or Quick City or Astro or any of these things that I can deploy on Render or Netlify or Fly or Vercel or SST or whatever I want, because they don't cost me any money and I can go and learn and get really good with them without paying those high fees unless my project scales, right? So I think we might be at the moment where React loses its chokehold on the industry. I don't think it's going anywhere, but I think it might become more of a Angular type thing where Angular is really prevalent, but it's not the thing that everybody tells you to reach for. If you go on social media and you say, what should I build my site in? Mostly people aren't going to say Angular, but if you look at the biggest companies, they're using Angular. It's there. There's a lot of Angular out in the world, and it's strong, and it's, right now they're trying to get people to recognize that they've done a lot to make it better and easier, in hopes that it does get that comeback and start getting recommended for new projects again. But I don't know. I think I wouldn't recommend starting a project on React these days. I would recommend starting a project on Astro, because it's not a framework. It's just mostly web platforms. And if you decide you don't want to use Astro anymore, you're not locked into a host or a cloud or anything. You just kind of okay, here's some assets that I generated. I can copy paste these somewhere else. And if you want to use React, you can, right? If you want to, or Vite, put stuff on Vite. Vite's dope. You can host Vite anywhere. And honestly, most real apps are SPAs anyways these days. And this idea that they're not is very, I think, Twitter hype bubble manufactured. And that's okay. Again, it's not, I don't think it's a big deal. But if you want to be I would say if you want to be the most employable, learn JavaScript, learn web standards, because if you know JavaScript, Solid or React or Angular or Svelte or Quick or any of those, doesn't matter, because it's just JavaScript ultimately. The way that those work is different ways of remixing JavaScript to do things that are all JavaScript concepts, right? So if you learn those well, if you learn the underlying concepts, it kind of makes you future-proof in the sense that the web platform doesn't break. The JavaScript that worked in 2000 still works today. It might not be as pretty, right? We're not looking at it and saying wow, what a gorgeous piece of code that is, because we've made a lot of improvements to the language, but it still runs. And I think that's I don't know if you've ever done this, but having a website that when you open it and you try to run it a year later and it just breaks because all the dependencies are out of date and something's weird with your environment and blah, blah, blah. That just won't happen with the platform, because that's not how the platform works. It's very intentionally designed not to do that. So all that being said, you want to get to income first. React, surest path to income now and probably for the next few years. I mean, potentially even longer. Who knows? Growth potential, React, JavaScript is higher growth potential. And then beyond that, you're really just looking for what makes you happy. And if React is the thing you love, dude, write React. Like, y'all, I don't care. Like, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just sharing my own experience and what I've seen after, my 20 years in this industry. I've never seen anybody suffer for learning why things work, right? You almost always see more opportunities if you dig into the why layer. Using the abstractions is what people do for work. Understanding the abstractions is how people get the work they want, if that makes sense. Let me drop some new. All right. Could I create a video showing how to build a component library with Storybook or React or Vue and then publish it as a private NPM package? I don't know if I could do that. Private NPM packages are not something that I have a lot of experience with. I did them when I was at IBM, but I don't know about oh geez. I guess I could do it, but I don't know if I'm the right person to do it just because it's so far removed from my day-to-day experience now. You know who would be really good for that actually is Michael Chan. Whatever, this will get me there. So Chan is at Storybook, sorry, and is also a great YouTube creator and would actually know exactly how to do this, whereas I would have to kind of research it and would be doing something that's a little out of my day-to-day. So I would encourage you to go to a more of a topical expert for such a specific thing. Information regarding the fonts and styles used in your VS Code. Sure, let's go to my uses page. This is where I keep all the things that I use. Somewhere down here is my software. So I use Operator Mono, and I use the Night Owl theme. Both are linked in here. You can see some of the other stuff that I've got down in here. I do need to update this because this part is actually really out of date, mostly. Oh yeah, Intel Core. Yeah, I am definitely not on that anymore. So the gear part is let's see, is any of this up to date? No. Yes. No. Oh my God, no. 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 Oh geez, no. Nope. Well, I guess that one, that one's over there. Yes. No. Yes. No. Okay, so this entire gear section is out of date. This is much more up to date with the exception of this one. I use Arc now instead of Edge. Jesus. Oh, that's embarrassing. I should fix that for real. Okay. What do I think of the growth of AI writing code? I literally just did a video on this, so I'm going to defer to that video. Let me just send a link here. Here we go. That is a video I just did on what I think AI is really good for. You might have seen me record this live on stream. This is one of the ones that I did as a, hey, why don't we take a minute and record a video? And so this one, if you might have seen it live. If you didn't see it live, this is me talking about what I think AI is suited for and what I think it's not suited for. And I hope you like it. Do I have things I do to combat procrastination and or demotivation? Yes. Okay. Let's talk about this one a little bit, because this is, I think, it's a tricky subject. So I think there are flavors of procrastination. The worst flavor is when I'm putting something off that I don't want to do because I don't enjoy doing it. And so an example of that is, I need to do some tax stuff. It's that time of year. I'm starting to get all my tax forms. My accountant called me a couple weeks ago, left me a message, and I haven't returned that call yet. Now, do I need to do this? Yes. Do I want this to be done? I do. Do I want to do it? Like, no, stab my eyes out, anything but that. However, I know that if I don't do it, it's going to get way worse, right? And so to me, this is the worst kind of procrastination, because it's typically stuff that's really important. Like, I need to book a doctor's appointment. I need to pay my taxes. I need to whatever it is, right? And I hate all of that stuff, like that sort of admin. I got to get out of the things I understand and into things I don't understand that have dire consequences if I get them wrong, like taxes. So I tend to procrastinate on those because I don't want to do them at all. Like, I hate them. And it's not like so that brings me to the second kind of procrastination, which is stuff that's hard to start but easy to keep going on. So for example, I don't like starting the writing process for a new video or article. It's hard. That blank page is really intimidating. I look at it and I'm like, I don't know. Well, maybe I'll do some research first, and then I watch YouTube videos. I'll give you a great example. I need to write a treatment for a video project I'm pitching, and a treatment, for people who don't know, like I didn't know, is the document that like you would send to a studio if you were pitching a TV series or a movie. So I need one of those because I have a TV series that I'm pitching, and I don't know anything about what goes into a treatment. So I looked up a PDF of an example treatment, and then I started writing, but then I was like, maybe I should do some more research. And so I ended up watching, this is such a good procrastination story. I needed to write a treatment for an episode, for a TV series that I'm pitching. To write that treatment, I needed to look up what a treatment was. So I found a free example on the internet, and then I doubted that free example was like the ideal thing. So I wanted to do more research. So I went to YouTube to watch some of the screenwriting YouTube channels talking about what a good treatment is. At which point I was informed by one of them that the pilot episode of Cheers is considered to be the perfect pilot, because it just does, according to them, every action in the pilot does a very specific job of setting up the rest of the series in terms of identifying characters, identifying motivations, hinting at future story arcs, et cetera, et cetera. That makes Cheers really engaging, like when you first watch it. And so instead of writing a treatment, I watched the pilot of Cheers last night. And guess what I didn't do? I didn't write word one of that treatment, right? And I need to get that done. I'm going to have to do that probably tonight, because I promised it like soon. It's due. So like for me, that once I start writing that, I will have fun, but the intimidation of taking on something, taking on a creative act that I could get wrong is it's intimidating, and it makes me want to not start, and I don't want to take the risk. And it's like, well, if I never start, then I can't suck at it. But once I start, I'm having fun. So that's category 2 of procrastination. And then category 3 of procrastination, I think, is I don't have energy for anything, and so I'm just going to scroll through Twitter until time runs out. And that one, I think, is just like, at that point, I need to get up and walk away from my computer. So here's what I do for my procrastination problems. If it's the first type of procrastination, I'm just scrolling because I don't have energy for anything, I just stop. Like, I have learned enough about myself to know that I can't like iron box my way out of being overtired. And so if I hit that point where I'm just scrolling and I go to, open the document, and within 15 seconds I've like opened YouTube or opened Twitter again, I just shut the computer down and I go do something else because I'm clearly not going to get anything done. And I also know that if I rest, I'll have a bunch of energy tomorrow, right? The other part of that too is remembering that like I know when I'm most productive. And for me, my most productive time is like the first 4 hours of the day. So if I typically go to bed around like 10:30 or so, I'm usually asleep by 11:30. So I'll probably wake up about 7. And if I get up at 7 and I work first thing in the morning, like make a cup of coffee and get something done, that will be the most productive I ever am. And I don't do it very often. A lot of times I'll wake up at 7 and I'll grab my phone and I'll sit in bed until 9:30 looking at all the social media. There's nothing wrong with that. But there are probably better ways I can spend my time, right? So some of my procrastination controls are like I'll put my phone across the house so that I have to I can't just grab it. I have to get out of bed and go look for it and all that kind of stuff. And I'll kind of have a plan for what I want to do in the morning. So I keep a list. This is my rolling to-do list, right? And I'm not going to let it come into focus because there's some stuff on there I can't share. But on this list, I've actually got 2 days worth of to-do lists written on this one page, because what I do is I take my to-do list and I write it out by hand. And then I do stuff off that list. And then when I get to tomorrow, I'll rewrite my to-do list, including all the items that I didn't do yesterday. Because some things are big. They take more than one day. And when I do this, it does 2 things. First, it helps me focus. I have to reflect on what I need to do. And I need to decide if the thing that's on this list is actually important. Because if it's not, I just don't carry it forward. Sometimes I'll have an idea I need to rearrange my office, right? So I'll write it down on the to-do list. And then a week later, I'm copying it over for the 7th time, and I look at it and I'm like, I don't actually need to rearrange my office. I'm just going to drop that. And if I get that wild hair and I've got time, I'll do it. But it's not going to be something that I feel guilty about not doing and keep copying forward. And so I like to, when I'm being responsible, I'll write this list at the end of my day so that when I start my day tomorrow, I know exactly what I'm going to start with. That is that's been very, very, very helpful to me. It's an effort of will. And I think though, the end of the day is a hard time to have willpower. So I would say my success rate is medium, but when I do it, it works out really well. And so when I have something like a treatment that I need to write, what I should do, and when I'm being responsible, what I will do is I'll write my to-do list the night before. I'll notice that the thing that's going to require the most mental energy from me is that treatment. And therefore, I'm going to put that treatment first on the list, and it's what I'm going to do right when I wake up. So wake up, make coffee, sit down and write that treatment. And I'll do that Marissa won't even be out of bed yet. She'll be reading or sleeping in or whatever. And I'm at 8:30, I've written the whole treatment. And then I'm done. I've finished that thing. Oh my God, it's been hanging over my head for a week. I've been putting it off. And because I woke up and I put my best energy, which is my morning energy. And I know that's my best energy. I know some people actually do their best work at night. So plan for that. Know that your best energy is going to be 7 to 10 p.m. Great. Plan for that. When you get to that energy time, do the treatment. Do the thing that's your most important thing when your energy is high. I think the big thing is that's just what you plan for. So that writing a list and recognizing what are the things that are most mentally taxing for me and putting them at the point in the day when I have the most energy and willpower, that tends to be how I get the most done. When the thing is something that once I've started, it's fun to do, right? For the stuff that it's not fun to do, I don't have a good answer because it's very, very hard for me. But typically what I do is either I will get some kind of external accountability. I'll ask Marissa if she wants to schedule tax day. And then we're both going to get all of our crap. And it's that's all we're doing on Saturday is we're going to wake up, we're going to make breakfast, and then we're going to deal with all this admin work that we got to deal with. And if if she, like, we did this to clean out our garage because there was, we did our remodel, and after the remodel, there were some extra stuff that we weren't sure if we needed, and so we needed to go through that. We had some boxes, we had bought some shelving that we didn't actually end up needing, so we had to decide what we were doing with that. And it was just in this big pile in the middle of our garage, and I wanted to be able to use the garage again, right? So, and she wanted to as well. So like we were putting this off, and we were fighting about it, and finally we decided, like, okay, just put it on the calendar. And then we woke up and we had both blocked out our day to do this freaking garage, and we hated it and we fought the whole day, but we got it done, and now it's done, right? And I think that's sort of like the external accountability has been big. The other thing for me is, like, for my taxes, for example, I have an accountant, and I think if I didn't have an accountant, I would wait until the absolute last possible minute to do the taxes because I would have to wait for the emergency. But knowing that I have not returned my accountant's phone call for a week and a half now, that guilt is gnawing at me in a way that I will respond to my accountant because he's a person who deserves respect long before I would do my taxes because I'm a person who doesn't want to go to tax jail, because that's how I'm wired. Like, I don't want to leave somebody hanging. And so that to me has been another strategy is to, like, find that way to externalize accountability. Like the gym is the same way. I won't go to the gym by myself. I've tried it a million times, and I get the membership and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go in the mornings, and then I just rationalize my way out of it. But if I have a personal trainer or if I'm going to a class, then I know that somebody is expecting me there. I've got the group of people that I always see on, like we're going today at 4:30 p.m. The group of people that goes to the gym at 4:30 p.m. is going to see me. We're going to do this group workout class. And if I'm not there, they're going to ask me where I was next time I go back, right? And I don't want anybody to wonder where I was. I want them to know that I'm in it and I'm doing the thing. And so that social accountability is really big for me. But that's me. So I think finding what your motivators are, like what are the things, because some people, for some people it's financial. Like if you, I've seen it done where you set it up where if you don't go to the gym, you have to pay $50 to something, right? And that fear of losing money is like, no, I'm absolutely going because I don't want to, like, waste $50 on not going to the gym. I tried that once, and I just realized I don't care about money at all. I was like, I will happily pay $50 to protect my time. Like, get out of here. So that's not a good one for me. It was just a very expensive way for me to learn that I'm still good at procrastinating. So you got to find the one that works for you, right? Like you gotta find the thing that, that makes you feel accountable for real. And then also just recognize that sometimes it's going to suck and you're going to be miserable and you just got to do it anyways. And that I don't know how you get past that, honestly. Like, it just sucks. Oh, Carlos, what's up from Bogota? I have never been to Bogota and I really want to go. How do I deal with world politics and work? I just get really sad and I keep working because what else am I going to do? That's a shitty answer, but it's where I'm at. I do what I can, but let's see. Do everything in Astro and Svelte kit these days. Yeah. I mean, it's awesome. Like, it's a good setup. There's some really, really good stuff out there. Why leave Edge? I left Edge because I started having the same memory leak problems that I used to have in Chrome, and I don't know what happened, but it started to feel very like memory hoggy, and so I just killed it. Eat the frog. Yeah, so the way I've heard this is, I don't know if this is the traditional way, but there was this when I used to do a lot of websites for fitness people. That was my agency, was largely like fitness professionals. I had this client, his name was Dave Tate, and he was he coached. He's very like motivational type, like very coachy. And he would always talk about, like, if you have to eat a plate of frogs, you want to eat the biggest frog first. right? Because otherwise you waste all of your mental energy on the little problems, and when you get to that last big problem, you're just done, and so you'll push it off. But if you take care of the biggest thing first, then it feels like you've built momentum, and everything after that thing is easier than the thing before it. So you just sort of you're rolling downhill at that point. Like your momentum will carry you through because you're like, well, I did the hard stuff. The rest of this is easy. And you just pop, 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 and then you're done. I've heard the same thing about debt, actually. I have my like Ramit Sethi is a smart person. I have my qualms with some of his stances, but at the same time, he's got this really good take on the debt snowball is what he called it. And I don't know if that's an original idea of his or if that's something that he borrowed from elsewhere. I heard it from him. The concept is that, like, if you owe money, you should structure your finances to aggressively pay down the biggest debt first. And so, like, if you have 3 credit cards, for example, and one of them has like $10,000 on it and the other 2 have like, you know, 500 or 5,000 or whatever, then you should pay minimums on the smaller balances and put everything aggressively into the biggest one. The reason being, you're paying the most interest on the biggest debt, and also that's the one that's causing the most stress. Like, knowing that you owe that much money on one card makes things stressful, right? So if you aggressively pay that one down as much as you can toward that biggest debt, then when you hit that one's cleared, you take whatever you were paying into the biggest one and you roll that into paying down the second biggest one. So the minimum plus what you were paying on the biggest debt. So it's now a bigger payment and you're paying down even more aggressively. And then you get to the last one or the next one down the line. And each time the payment goes up a little bit and your outward spending doesn't change because you were planning on spending, you know, X number of dollars per month to pay down debt, and you aggressively targeted your biggest one, and then you're rolling down and down. So the amount of interest you're paying goes down, the amount you're paying toward each debt goes up, and by the end of it, you're like slamming through debts like super, super fast. And when I was younger, I had a lot of credit card debt because I was running that agency and I didn't know anything about money. So I was like very freelancer, feast or famine, and a lot of the famine led to credit card debt. And so I did that debt snowball. And before that, I'd always just kind of like paid as much as I could toward each card, kind of spread out. And I noticed that I never felt like I was making progress. And so when I switched to this debt snowball, targeting the biggest thing first actually felt like things were moving. And I don't know if it was true, right? I don't know if it was just a psychological thing, like it felt like I was doing it more productively and therefore I was more willing to stick to it. There's a million things that could have been going on, lots of placebo effect possible. But ultimately, it led to me getting out of debt, and it was one of those like, oh, so I mean, even if it wasn't factually better, it was structured in a way that made it better for me, and that's been a big thing I've learned about like productivity and just general well-being as an adult, is that it's not necessarily about finding something that's like objectively correct or finding the best system. It's about structuring things in a way that makes you feel like it's going well. And that also means that like everything I take on is forever for now. The stuff that I'm saying today is the stuff that works for me now. If you asked me what worked for me 10 years ago, I would have given you different answers, and I'll probably give you different answers in 10 years from now, because the thing that's important isn't that you're consistent with what you've committed to. It's that you are consistently finding ways to make yourself effective. And a lot of times novelty is a part of making yourself effective. So I'll switch things up sometimes because the novelty has me excited about doing it. And that can be a trap, right? Like novelty is there's a lot of dopamine involved with novelty. So when you switch things up, it can feel really good, but actually not make that much progress. So got to be careful about that. But it can, you know, figuring out what makes you tick with the right combination of like happiness and progress. That's the game. Like trying to optimize that balance is, I don't know. I think that's how you really ride that wave of continuous productivity as opposed to the sprint and crash of like I will force myself into an unnatural shape that makes me really fast, but then also I'm broken for a couple months after I hit the end of the sprint. I don't think that's actually productive in the long run. And I say that from experiencing it several times as in my 20s of like just trying to battering ram my way through lots and lots of different techniques. And I thought that the only way around is through kind of thing. And I just beat my head against a lot of brick walls trying to like force productivity, and I could do it. But the long-term effect was that nothing really happened. Like I would make a lot of progress, but then I'd have such a long recovery time that the progress kind of averaged out to not very productive. The slow and steady, for me at least, tends to be the right move. Like I am much happier when I do a little bit all the time than when I do a lot and then nothing. It's hard for me to keep rolling if I feel like I've had 3 weeks off because I was so burnt out from the 1 week that I did everything. Anyways. We're cruising today. We're like deep down the philosophical rabbit hole. What are y'all up to? What's happening? What's everybody doing? How is your new year? We are 23 days into 2024. How are you feeling about it? Like what's new? What are you doing? Did you change anything? And if so, how is that change going? How about that question? I made a decision not to change anything in 2024. I feel like 23 was a year of me trying to figure out how to do this thing. Like I went full time on Learn with Jason in November of 22. So Thanksgiving this year was my 1 year anniversary of Learn with Jason. And I feel like I spent most of that time just trying to figure out like how all of this works. I was getting the studio. I was figuring out how to produce on a cadence that was sustainable for me. I was figuring out what formats work for me. I was experimenting with new formats. So this year I don't want to like add new things. This year I want to do the things that worked. And so like I'm really focused on, for example, for web devs, because that one it's super fun. I like making it. I want to make more of it. Y'all seem to enjoy it. So it feels like the right thing to put energy into, right? And then I'm finding a couple things that I like doing that I want to do more of. And I'm putting energy into making those happen. More news when they're real, hopefully very soon. And then otherwise I just kind of want to, like, I don't need more variables. I actually need to simplify. Too many dachshunds experiencing their first one. I would agree with that. Are they long-haired dachshunds? I remember one of my favorite things that I ever saw was there was this couple that had 3 dachshunds, and they were all different like hair lengths. So there was like a long-haired dachshund, and then one of the like short hairs, and then kind of sort of in the middle, like a little scruffier. And they had all of them in a wagon, and one of them was wearing a cowboy hat, and it was about the cutest thing I've ever seen. They would just kind of like pull it around, and everybody would lose it when they saw the trio of dachshunds. Back to being a chef and leaving tech. Todd, are you going in like, are you joining an existing restaurant? Or are you like starting something? What cuisine are you going for? 10 months as a non-smoker? Hell yeah, good for you. Work towards senior dev this year? Very cool. Yeah, the incremental plan to make that happen. Love that. Love that. One long-haired, one short-haired. Oh, love it. Get a cowboy hat. Nice. Joining and existing. Cool. Very cool. All right. Finalizing details this week. Cool. Very cool. Well, congrats on that. I know that it sounds like this has been a decision that you've been weighing for a while now. So I'm glad you found a place that feels right. Should we look at a little code today, or what do you think? Should we write a little code? Probably, right? Attending any convention. So I'm going to a few conferences. I got invited to speak at CityJS London, which is in April. Let's see, CityJS London. This one? Yeah, April 3rd to 5th. So if you're in the area, head out, hit me up. And then I'm going to be at Render ATL. 90% sure on this one. Still got to work out some details there. I'll be at Render. I'm going to be at Cascadia JS, not 23, at 24. So let's see. Here's the there we go. And I'm not speaking at it, but I'm going to be attending Beyond Tellerrand because Marissa's really excited about that. I think that's all the ones I'm doing this year. I'm not doing a lot. I've been doing far fewer conferences because the travel is hard. The interruption to my other projects is really hard. Because when you lose a week when you're doing video production and stuff, it has this kind of cascading slowdown, which is tough. And also, we're focusing on community this year, so we're trying to do more stuff in and around Portland. I'm trying to figure out how to bring more people here. Like my big goal is to figure out how to partner properly with companies so that I can bring more of my guests into Portland. Working on that. I got a couple ideas of how that could work. I'm sending out some feelers on what we could do to make that work, but fingers crossed that it could be a thing. Let's see. Worldwide. Yeah. I mean, feeling pretty fortunate that I still get invited to things. David, you told me before what Flames was. I had no idea, and I thought it was I thought it was like slang that I didn't like youth speak. Like Flames, like, yeah, this is Flames. No, it's not that. Yeah. Study computer sciences, but you hate coding and stuck with it. I don't know, man. What would you do instead? Like, I think the thing about code is that work is a means to an end, right? It doesn't have to be your whole identity. And if there's something that you can do for work that you enjoy, do it. If there's nothing that you would really enjoy doing for work, then do the thing that makes the most money so that you have all of your energy and time to do things that you do enjoy, right? I think that's the trick. Like, I'm very lucky that I have fun doing this stuff, but there are also there are lots of ways of coding that I don't enjoy, and I've had and left those jobs. So I also think there's some exploration to be done in different ways of applying code, because computer science, there's a big field. There's a lot of ways to apply that, and you can use your coding knowledge to be a product leader if you like coming up with ideas and helping lead teams toward building them. You can use it to do research. You can use it to do design. You can become a creative technologist. You can build stuff. You can maintain stuff. You can be in sales. Like, technical sales is a really valuable place for people to be. There are a lot of different ways that you can apply computer science that aren't day-to-day coding that it's worth exploring before you fully give up, because before you fully give up, I don't know what that accent was, it just creeped in. But if you can find different ways to apply that knowledge, there might be a way that fits, that feels really good. And if you can't find that, and you can't think of anything that you'd rather do, then I don't know, like, find the thing that makes you the least miserable to do to make money, and then just balance like how much misery it brings you as a job versus how much income it brings you to give you the freedom to do what you want outside of the job, and try to find the one that that gives you the least misery and the most income. Hopefully there's one where there's no misery and lots of income, but that's not always true for all of us. And I think it's just a matter of exploring and trying to find the thing that makes you happy, or that you like enough that you're okay not making that much money. Like, that's also perfectly acceptable. But I don't know. I mean, work is work at the end of the day, I guess. What's Portland like? Portland is, so I love Portland. It is rainy. It's overcast. I think today is got like a little bit of sunshine coming through the clouds, but it's still rainy. And during this time of the year, it's pretty gray and dreary. You start dreaming of going anywhere sunny. But it's also like, it's a great food city. It's a very friendly city. It is not historically known for its diversity. I don't know. I mean, as my opinion is that it appears to be getting better, but I don't know. I think it's easy for me to assume that things are getting better because I'm not the person who was historically excluded. So we'd have to ask somebody else about that. But it feels, I like it. Like, it feels like a place that I can live. It's walkable. It's, it's green. It's the food. I enjoy the food here. I enjoy the people here. The weather is good enough. Like, I really don't like snow and ice, which, is ironic given that Portland was just frozen for like a week and I was stuck in my house. But usually it doesn't do that here. Whereas, like, I remember I grew up in Montana, and Montana was very snowy, and, you have to have snow tires. You have to have all-wheel drive and that kind of stuff. That's not what I wanted. Like, it's not where I wanted to live. And then I also don't really like super hot areas. So, this is like my Goldilocks zone, I guess. Got to do the food with friends more often. Yeah. So I have, wait, where is it? LWJ, food with friends, is that? That's not it. Is it food with friends? No, that's not it. I swear I had this. Oh, no. Crap. I don't know where this page went. Somewhere. Is it on here? Here it is. Okay, that's where it was. Food with Friends is a thing that I put on with me and Kyle Shevlin do it. There's Kyle, and here are these images are not loading. Holy crap. This is a ConvertKit landing page, and I am now concerned that they did nothing to optimize these images, and I should probably go do that. But Food with Friends is it's a non-meetup, so we just get together with folks with no agenda. It's like, hey, where's a place where up to 20 people can sit? Let's go there. And then we, grab snacks, we grab beverages, and just generally hang out. It's like an excuse to meet people, not a networking event, right? So I run it in Portland. It's been on a little bit of a hiatus over the winter because it's been, it's been a bit of a busy, weird winter. But we're going to pick it back up again coming into the spring here. So if you want to be part of it, sign up to this newsletter, and you'll get an email when it happens. Let's see. A dream is still a job. Yeah, I mean, a dream, like, every job is a job. Like, you no matter what you get to do for a living, you still have to do the work, right? Like, and usually the best way to make a dream job, or like the thing you love, miserable, is to have to do it for a job. And so I think that is I don't know. It's almost kind of one of those, like, if you love food, don't open a restaurant because you'll grow to hate food sort of thing. And I think if you love art, don't become an artist. That whatever. Like, there's all sorts of things, because if you have to do the thing, if it becomes the thing you do for a living, then all of a sudden there's this risk, this admin, this force pressure attached to it that can take some of the joy out of it. I think the magic is finding a way to really embrace the challenge of like all the pieces of it. I don't know. I mean, my secret to happiness and the reason I'm in a good mood most of the time is because I just think it's really fun to like play with this stuff. Later, Todd. Have a good one. But I think, it's from it's a tough spot to be in if only a very narrow band of things make you happy. And so for me, I've tried to expand to like enjoying the process of figuring things out. And there are things I know I don't enjoy. Like I don't think I'm ever going to be somebody who loves accounting. And that's okay. Like I don't have to love everything, but I like figuring out different puzzles and so the sales, the admin, the marketing, the dev, the design, like each of the pieces of the businesses that I'm involved in, I can find things about it to be interested in, and I can find things about it that I want to learn and know and understand. And it might not be what I want to do every day. Like I definitely don't want to be in sales, but learning how to do sales is interesting. There's a lot of interesting stuff in there, and understanding, not like, I don't know, I think it's easy to write off a job as being like, well, all you're doing is like telling people to buy stuff. It's like, well, no, there's art to this, right? You gotta be able to talk to somebody in a way that gets them to want to open up to you and explain what their problems are. You got to be able to take that problem and understand not just what they're saying, but what the underlying thing is that causes them to say that. What are their motivations? What are they trying to get done? What's success looked like to them? What's motivational for them? And how can you take all of that and make sure that it connects to the thing that you're doing? And if it does, help them understand that. Help them understand how the thing that they're doing will be augmented positively by the thing that you have, and that if they, they'll get a good net outcome if they decide to make the change to use your thing, right? There's a lot to that, and it's the same with understanding what customers want. It's the same with designing products. It's the same with figuring out how a good UX design works. Like it all sounds easy on the face of it because we can be reductive about anything. But if you look at what's actually going into it, man, it's cool. There's cool puzzles in every part of this industry. And if you take time to learn that stuff, then it can be, the challenge of trying to figure out how it works can make even the stuff that I maybe wouldn't want to do every day, but I have to do for my business. Like I spend a lot of time, I said earlier, I spend about 50% of my week in sales calls because I'm independent now. And I have to find ways to pay my bills by partnering up with companies. So that time I could be miserable and say like, oh, I don't get to do the thing I love. But also it's kind of fun to talk to companies about what they're trying to accomplish and how could we do it in a way that's not like yet another webinar or not just like throw DevRels at a conference and hope for the best. Like there's so many creative ways to solve those problems. And if we understand what companies are trying to accomplish and then start thinking creatively about ways that we could accomplish that aren't necessarily the traditional playbook, now I'm having fun. Now we're actually doing something interesting, right? And that doesn't feel like sales. It feels like brainstorming with cool companies about ways that we could do something fun together. I really like that, right? But it is sales. So you can find a way to make things fun, even if it's not necessarily the thing that you think you would have fun doing. And for me, that's been my secret to like all of this is realizing that every single one of these things can be fun if you change the way you frame it and think about what you're trying to accomplish and how the work that you're doing helps you accomplish that thing as opposed to how it takes you further away from the work or something like that. Struggle is I want to do it all. Yes. And I think the struggle of being a generalist is, man, I have so many, my list is so long of like someday things. And I wish I had a good, because it just like, sometimes I just get sad because I'm like, I'll never have enough time to do all this. But at the same time, like I get to do a lot. So I try to be happy about how much I get to do and try to fend off some of the sadness about all the things I don't get to do. And usually, most days I can tip it in favor of like, I'm pretty stoked about this. And on the days that I can't, I, get some soup and watch the bear and cry. Yeah, passionate about a lot of things, wouldn't want to do them all for a living. Exactly, yeah. In finding the thing where it's like it's interesting and it pays, that's a tough challenge. Like it's hard to make that stuff work. So good they can't ignore you. Yeah. I think so good they can't ignore you is good. There's another one that what's it called? I think it's called To Sell Is Human. Yeah. This is a good book. It like one of the things that I think about a lot is that we have this idea that sales is somehow inherently bad because the way that sales gets framed is like the car salesman, like the pushy, the manipulative, whatever. And I've been part of that kind of sales. Like one of the first things I ever did in sales is I got hired as a door-to-door vacuum salesman. That was terrible. Like I think I lasted 2 weeks at that job because everything they teach you is manipulative. They're showing you different ways to like prey on people and their fear and their disgust and so on by showing them different things in their house that this vacuum will theoretically clean. That it won't. Like, there's one of the things that they do is like, this is disgusting. So like little trigger warning for gross, but one of the things that they do is they'll tell you to like push your way as the salesman into somebody's bedroom and vacuum their mattress using a black filter, right? And that's already like, it's gonna be gross. People are always like shedding skin and so on and stuff. So like, no matter what vacuum you have, no matter how clean your house is, there's always gonna be something in the mattress to vacuum up, right? So you do that, and then you show them how gross they are by showing them their black filter with all the white skin cells on it. And then you talk to them about all these other things that the vacuum can do and whatever. And after about 30 seconds, you can look back at the filter and you'll notice that the ring has moved. And that's because all the mites that live on your body that eat your dead skin, which is why we don't look like Pigpen, with like a cloud of dead skin coming off of us at all time, is because a bunch of little bugs live on us, right? So when you vacuum this mattress, you also vacuum up these mites, which are still alive because that's what they do, is they eat dead skin. And they try to run away from the filter that they're on. People see that and they lose their minds and they're like, oh my God, this is so gross. I can't believe that we live like this. And you say, yeah, we'll buy this vacuum. The vacuum does nothing. The vacuum does not solve that problem. But we get somebody thinking about how gross they are, and then we imply that buying this vacuum will solve that problem, which it won't. And then we get them to sign a contract for a $1,600 vacuum. It's manipulative, it's pushy, it's gross. Sales doesn't have to be like that. Like most of sales is, we're at dinner and we're talking about something, I'm at home or I'm saying, yeah, we're working on our kitchen and trying to decide what oven we want. And you say, oh man, we just got a Wolf oven and we love it. It's like, it's exactly what we wanted. It does everything we need. And then your friend goes, oh yeah, you're into it. And it's like, yeah, man, I'm like really into this thing. It's been exactly what we want. And so your friend goes and buys a Wolf oven. Right? That's sales. You just did sales. When you tell me what TV shows you like, you're selling them to me. When you tell me whether or not you like your keyboard, you're selling it to me. And that is the vast majority of what we do as humans, is we make recommendations based on things that we think will make our friends' lives better. And that's sales, right? And if you're doing sales ethically, that's what you're doing with strangers as well, is you're trying to understand what situation they're in, understand what you have that could potentially make their lives better, and then try to find a way that's mutually beneficial. You get to help them solve a problem and make their lives better. And in exchange, they're going to give you some money because that's how capitalism works, right? That's not unethical. It's not manipulative. It's not slimy. It can be. You can be pushy. You can be terrible, but you don't have to be, right? And I think that that's one of the things that, like product is the same way. Like we love to make fun of product managers for running around like chickens with their heads cut off, but it doesn't have to be that way. A lot of product managers are awesome at this. And a lot of companies couldn't function without their great product managers. And honestly, if you look at the companies that run best, there's probably one or two product managers who do a whole lot more than they're supposed to be doing to hold the whole company together. And that, that is one of those things that like, it's easy to make it invisible because we pretend that as engineers, we do all the work. But like, let's be honest, if an engineer was left to their own devices, they're going to do what's fun, not what the customers want, right? So who's going to make that plan? Who's going to make sure that we adhere to that plan? Who's going to check in? Who's going to organize all of the launch activities? Who's going to do the customer interviews? Who's going to get the play testing and the feedback and all the things that end up leading to building something that people want, not just something that I can look at and say, isn't that code neat, right? That's product, and it's fun. It can be fun. So anyways, there's a lot of fun to be had in this stuff. It's just a whole thing you got to do. Bugs in our eyelashes. I know, it's so gross. Turns out that the vacuum sucks. Boo. Someone is selling, someone is buying. Exactly, right? And if you think about it, we all sell constantly, but then when we get told to sell in a way that would make us money, we're suddenly like, well, I hate sales. I'm not comfortable selling. It's like, bullshit. You just spent the whole day telling me why we should go to this restaurant for lunch. Like you were literally selling all day. And now all of a sudden, because I would have to give you $5 for the knowledge that you have that would actually benefit me way more than your lunch recommendation, you're uncomfortable? Like, come on, dude. Like... It is okay to sell. If you're giving me something that'll actually help me, I am so happy to do that. It's a positive exchange for me. If I can give you $10 and a problem that I have goes away, it is almost always worth $10, right? And I think that is it's really hard to get out of that mindset that like asking for money is somehow like dirty or sleazy, but ultimately like we pay money to solve problems all the time. And if you are capable of solving a problem, taking money for it doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you a good person. Like that, you're solving a problem for somebody. You're making their problems go away. Awesome. Take a little money for it. Like you can't do this stuff if you're broke, right? Like you can't put good into the world if you are constantly stressed about whether or not you can pay your bills. I don't know. Fair exchange of value is a reasonable thing, and it's not something that you should feel bad about. Should you master algorithms and structures to be a good web developer? It doesn't hurt. You don't need to. I don't have them. I honestly, if you asked me to do any of the algorithm challenges right now, I'd fail. Like, I don't think I would pass a Google interview because I don't know algorithms. Like I couldn't write a binary sorting algorithm from scratch. I don't know. I can't write a bubble sort. I know the names of them, so I guess I'm further along than some, but I don't know how to write them. I could look them up. I can understand what they do, but I don't know. Does it make you better as a coder? Depends on what you write. You know, like, are you writing web dev stuff? You probably don't need algorithms. Doesn't matter. Like they don't. The sorting algorithms are already figured out. Like people have already written that code. It's abstracted away. You don't have to do it. Can you do it? Sure. Will it make you better at noticing when there's going to be a performance bottleneck? Sure. Is it the thing I would prioritize? No. Well, and it also depends on like how far you're going to prioritize or like specialize too, because, you know, that whole thing. Optimize the things that you do 80% of the time. Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it, right? Is like, you know, the goal should be to do stuff that, like, you want to improve the things that really move the needle. And so there's a big difference between being effective and feeling effective. And I think that this is why tech interviews are so generally broken. Somebody said this really well. I wish I could remember who wrote it so that I could pull it up. But there was a sort of like comparison of like, when a developer is applying for a job, they will say, you know, I haven't worked in that language, but I'm really good at learning. So if you throw me into this code base, I'll be able to figure it out and build anything you want. I just need a couple of weeks to ramp up, right? And I think most of us feel that way. And so then the comparison was that same dev giving a technical interview is, well, you don't have 10 years of experience in our specific esoteric stack, so I don't think you're a fit for this team. And it's like, okay, yeah, you're right. But I mean, ultimately, it's easy for us to look for quantifiable things like can do this specific algorithm. Like it is a true false statement of whether or not I know this piece of trivia. Do you know, like we love to ask how the network, like what does a network request do? so that we see how much people know about what happens between hitting a key on the keyboard and getting a web page on your browser. And like there's a way to ask that question where I think in the spirit of learning what somebody is interested in and like what they're thinking about when they're thinking about web dev, there's a way to use that is informative. But then there's a way to use that's just like, it's trivia. I'm trying to ask you a gotcha question. If you don't know all the trivia I know, clearly you're not smart enough, and I'm going to disqualify you from this job. But ultimately, I have never once needed to know an algorithm to do my job, right? If I needed a good sorting algorithm, I can Google what a binary sorting algorithm is because it's a true-false value, right? What I need to know is, can I understand what this block of code that I've never seen before that's in a closed source repo, can I understand what this block of code does? And am I able to understand it well enough that I can change what it does without breaking unrelated parts of our code base to add a new feature? And that is also a true false, but not one that you can get in an interview, right? That is a quality. You're looking for the quality of developer, somebody who's capable of understanding things and digging into unfamiliar code bases and making decisions and understanding consequences of changes. Those sorts of things are virtually impossible to measure with precision in an interview. So we default to something that we can say yes, no to because we want a checkbox. But what it ends up doing is it optimizes for people who have the wrong skill sets. I don't need you to have memorized the LEET code exercise program. I need you to be able to work in a production code base. But since I can't test you true false on a production code base because you've never seen ours and I can't show it to you without you being a part of the company, I'm like judging you on criteria that don't matter because I'm afraid of getting a qualitative, making an educated guess on whether you have the qualities of somebody who can do this work. I feel like I'm off on a bit of a tangent, but I think the kind of underlying thing there is this feeling of it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that there is like a quantitative proof that we are good at something. Like if I can learn X, Y, and Z, then I will be good. And I think that is not, it's not possible to quantitatively prove that you are good at something. Well, let me take that back. When you see somebody who has a doctorate and 25 years of experience or whatever, then obviously they know a lot about whatever the thing is that they're doing, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean they're the best person for the job. I've worked with a lot of people who have a lot of experience and they are awful. Like they don't respect anybody else's opinion. They don't collaborate. They don't want to hear anybody else's ideas. They'll shut down anything that they didn't invent. That is the worst person to hire. But on paper, they sound perfect, right? And so we have to embrace that, like, being good at something is always an individual assessment for the job. And even somebody who has everything you might want on paper might not actually be good at that thing in this job, right? Like, and you have to assess for what they're actually doing. If you assess for algorithms and what you actually need them to be great at is collaboration, you've totally blown your interview process. Like you as an interviewer have just completely failed because you've set up your whole team for failure by bringing in somebody who's good at a set of skills that you don't need, right? So that it is very important, I think, to not think about quantitative measures of goodness and instead think about, like, as Maddie said, like on 80% of teams, the things that are going to be really important are like, can you take an idea and translate it into a website? Can you collaborate with your team? If somebody in sales explains a problem to you, can you understand what they mean? Or do you need that to be translated through an engineering manager into a set of tasks that you can do, right? Depending on what role you want, it might be that the vast majority of what's going to make you valuable on the team isn't actually technical skills. It's going to be your catalytic skills, your political skills, your ability to maneuver and collaborate within an organization to get work done. not the specific ones and zeros that you're going to move within the code base. Because honestly, that like the specific ones and zeros within the code base, that's getting easier and easier to just like, a Copilot make that for me. That part doesn't matter. Like if you ask Copilot to write you a bubble sort algorithm, it's going to do it. If you ask Copilot to design a product that meets these customer needs, it's going to give you garbage every time. Those are the skills that really make somebody valuable. And that's been true pre-AI. Like you can copy paste a bubble sort algorithm from Stack Overflow, and before that you could copy paste it out of a textbook, right? Those never mattered because it's easily accessible information. My mother, who has never written a line of code in her life, if I said, go get me a bubble sort algorithm, can Google what is a bubble sort algorithm and copy paste the code that she finds, right? That's not programming skill. Programming skill is me being able to say, hey, I've got all this data and I need to do this with it and it needs to go over here and these people need to use it. And I can take all of that information and then I know, oh, this would be a good application of the bubble sorting algorithm. That's programming skill, right? Knowing how to take input and take outputs and take desired outcomes and metrics and turn those into a plan that implements the little bits of coding and algorithms and other stuff that happens. Like those are just the building blocks we use to implement the idea. The idea is the work. Being able to understand how all this stuff connects and fits and solves problems, that's the work, right? So anyways, hire or fire. Oh man, that's reality TV, but I can't. Nope, not for me. Most companies look for people who can use screwdrivers, hammers, and others. Yeah, absolutely. Like hiring and motivation is another hard one too, because like I can teach someone to use a screwdriver. I can't teach them empathy. That I agree with very much. Like I feel really strongly that like I can teach you our code base. I can teach, if you're capable, if you show me that you know how to learn and you show me that you know how to collaborate and take feedback, then I'm confident that I can teach you things. And there's definitely there's a gradient here of you have to know enough that I can't give you like a primary education to get you to the thing. But if you know enough about how this stuff works, I can stack the concepts that we use specifically on top of your existing knowledge in a way that'll make you very productive. But I can't teach you not to be an asshole. Like I don't have the facilities to get you the therapy and the coaching and all the other things that are going to be needed to learn to be an empathetic, collaborative person, right? Jobs are not equipped for that. It is not the place for it. Like people just go to therapy. You need a place to work through this stuff and it can't be your job. Like your engineering manager cannot be your therapist. One, because they're horribly unqualified for it. And two, because that's not what you're there to do. We're not here to do therapy for our coworkers. We're here to get work done, and getting work done means being collaborative and being empathetic and being willing to work as a team. And if you hire somebody who's not those things, get them out of there. They're unqualified, right? It doesn't matter how good they are at code. They're going to ruin your team. And that I think is the major issue. Sell a $2,000 course on it. I don't know if I agree with that. I think that fewer people would buy the course, but I do think people would buy it. You can find a lot of courses out there on confidence and success and professional growth and stuff like that. And if you look at what they are, it's, the one of the best-selling books of all time in business is How to Make Friends and Influence People, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And if you look at what that book is, it is a dedicated manual on not being a dick. And that is truthfully, and it is a good book. It is a worthwhile read, but it's really just saying things like, be respectful. Hey, when you go to a job interview, don't treat the person at the reception desk like they're subhuman because they have no utility to you. Treat them like a person because they're a fucking person. It's truly, that book is just how not to be a dick, right? And people buy it, and people buy it because they want to grow in their careers. And I think that if you look at a lot of what the management books are, what the company growth books are, most of them start to lean toward this idea of like building empathy, building collaboration, thinking about how to work as a team. It gets disguised like we're sort of tricking people into learning it, because I don't think you could sell a book on like how to become more empathetic. Well, you probably can. I'm sure that book exists, but like I don't think the demographic of devs would buy it. But we do buy books on like let me think of a good example. Crucial Conversations is a great book on how to be more empathetic. How to Win Friends and Influence People is another great example. There's a book called Switch, which is how to change minds in a corporate environment. And it's basically just a whole book on how to be empathetic to what other people want and reshape the things you're saying to help frame it from their point of view, right? Just a book on empathy. All of these are framed as business books, and people buy them all the time. An MBA, a good MBA, is probably going to be about 50% on how to work with people. And we pay a lot more than $2,000 for that. So, so yeah, I think that's my, and yeah, it is mainly aimed at executives or people who want to be executives. I think more and more what I'm seeing is guidance for like senior plus devs. Because I believe that there is a point where it just matters that you have the skill, and getting into the industry and like growing up to senior, I would say are like your goal at that point is to become effective by yourself. You need to be able to understand the task that's been put in front of you and do it with, you know, a little bit of assistance as a junior, very little assistance as like a unprefixed dev, whatever that, you know, junior dev, senior dev. And then as a senior dev, you should be able to do the tasks sent to you with no help whatsoever. You should be able to basically take any to-do item and turn it into completed code, right? But then when you want to go further, staff, principal, et cetera, you have to start, like, that's when you start becoming a collaborator. You need to be able to take a problem and turn it into tasks for other people. You need to be able to delegate. You need to be able to explain what's in your head in a way that somebody else can like internalize that and turn it into knowledge that'll turn them from a junior dev into a senior dev, right? So that's when I'm seeing more and more developers who are further in their career, they're starting to talk about this stuff, and they're starting to recommend like, hey, even if you don't want to be a manager, read some of these books on management, because ultimately your job when you get to be on senior, when you get to be on senior, your job becomes programming the people. You're doing your engineering work is now on getting the org to work in the way that it needs to work, not getting the code base to work in the way that it needs to work, even if you're not in a management position. And that, I think, is, I'm happy to see that. Like, obviously that's not true across the board. And I've met plenty of senior plus people who would vehemently disagree with what I just said. But I mean, that's a hill I'll die on. They're wrong. Right? Like, if you think that you can be a principal engineer and never speak to another human and just write code, like what you actually are is like, you're a senior dev who is overpaid, because you're not actually making any changes. You're just building toys that only you can maintain. And if you ever leave, all of your toys die. And that means that you're not actually that good of an engineer in terms of organizational building, right? You have to build things that can outlive you. And if you're the only person who can work on it, because I'm the only person smart enough to do something like this, like, cool, whatever, go build stuff by yourself, and the rest of us will outbuild you by working together. And we've seen it over and over again. Like, a lone genius only lasts as long as that lone genius has the attention span and energy to keep focusing on their thing. Teams that actually get stuff done, you probably don't know most of their names. They just ship because they don't care about credit. They care about credit, but they care about credit in the sense that, like, the rising tide lifts all ships, and they understand that working together gets them far further than if they just tell everybody to leave them alone so they can be a genius. Anyways, some salt for the end of the stream here. I didn't write a single line of code today. That's okay. I feel like we had a good chat. Yeah, we're coming up on the end here. So if anybody has any last questions, do let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to start driving us toward the end here. Well, your boat can't have any holes in it. That's sort of some important detail. I think I'm funny is the important part of what just happened there. All right. What's everybody reading right now? I just finished a book. Let's see. I've been reading Red Rising, and I got to the end of that. I'm waiting on the next big book. We don't want the plot summary. I want like the actual. Here we go. There are 6 books out. There's another one that's supposed to be coming, I think, this year. I'm not 100% sure. It's very good. It's kind of like R-rated Hunger Games, if that makes sense, is how it starts out, and then it's very like space fights. I liked it. It's fun. I didn't enjoy it as much as I liked the Murderbot Diaries. Is there Murderbot Diaries? These are really fun. I thought these were a blast because they are they're very, very silly. They're like silly. They're fun, but they're also like, I don't know. They do a good job of like bringing in some humanity despite being about a robot. Oh, nice, catching a stream. Oh, you're also reading the Murderbot. Awesome. Love it, love it, love it. Yeah, Murderbot series. Good. We Free Men. Oh, I love Discworld is so good. Oh, you're the front end dev for the Discworld con? That's amazing. I love that. That's super fun. That whole series is great. Like all the Discworld books are fun. We lost a good one in Terry Pratchett. Growing object-oriented software guided by tests. Test-driven dev for embedded C, domain-driven design, and Constantine on peopleware. Dang, that's a dense reading list. dwcon.org. Nice. This is good. I like this. This is clever. It's got the nod to the Terry Pratchett footnotes. Like, love it. This is good. I really like the Discworld stuff. Like the ability to both like be silly and tackle serious topics in a way that doesn't feel like making too light of them is so undervalued. I think it's really, really wonderful. Closed Common Orbit. Is this the same author that wrote? It is. This is Wayfarers, and the first. Yeah. I read the first one of these. I liked it. It was very, like, cozy, if that makes sense. Like it felt. I think I read it right after I read something like. I was reading what's it called? The Expanse series, which the Expanse series is also really good. The Expanse books, let's find it here. These ones they're really good, but they're also like high stakes. Like a lot is happening, and there's explosions and death and whatever. And then you read Becky Chambers, and Becky Chambers, like nothing much happens, and that's not a bad thing. But it's like, when you watch something and it's like, you have the expectation that there's going to be like a big bad or like space fights and stuff, and then the book is just kind of like, yeah, these people had like a mild conflict and they talked it through, and I was like, I'm waiting for something to happen, but it was good. I think I just read it in the wrong order and with the wrong expectations. So I like got to the end of the book and I was like, wait, I thought there was going to be like a conflict. It was also shorter than I expected because I was reading a bunch of really long books, and they were. These ones, I think the Becky Chambers book, it wasn't that long. It was, I think I read it in like 4 or 5 hours. And I was used to books that were taking me weeks to read because they were like 900 pages or something. So I also was kind of surprised that it ended. I was like, oh, I thought we were like in Act 1. But yeah, I do need to read more of it because I did think it was good. I think you are definitely right that was what I had in my head for what was going on. Another one that I really enjoyed is Orconomics. I thought this series, it's not, what is it, Dark Prophet? Wait, can we just see Dark Prophet? This series is also very fun and like very, very good and silly. It's sort of like D&D, but the people in the book are like dwarves and wizards and orcs and stuff like that. But it's like a modernized D&D world where there's a stock market and there are, like the heroes have to get licenses, and there's people who invest in their quests, and so the hoard has to be shared amongst investors. It's very silly, good satire. It's got Terry Pratchett vibes. I don't know that I would say it's as good as Terry Pratchett. However, I don't know that I would have thought Terry Pratchett was good for his first couple of books either. It was sort of like once you get into the stride of what he was building in that world, it is when it really shined how talented he was. So I think this might be something in the same vein if you're into that Terry Pratchett world. I don't think these books get a lot of press either. Like I noticed that they didn't have a lot of folks on Goodreads and stuff. So this might be a little bonus. Bobaverse, dude, I just started Bobaverse and I'm very excited about it. It is, I'm very, let's see, how far into this book am I? I'm like maybe halfway through the first book. It's very funny. I enjoy it a lot. We are Legion, we are Bob. I won't even spoil the premise. It's ridiculous. It's great. You should watch it or read it. It's very, very good. Oh, it just came back to this. Yeah, there's another book in another J. Zachary Pike book coming out soon that I'm very excited about. Yeah, the Bobaverse is very fun. I haven't read all of them, so I don't know what happens like after the first book, but I am enjoying the first book so far. What else? I've been reading a lot of like fantasy and sci-fi lately, just mostly because like I don't have I don't know. I read so many business books for a very long time, and then I sort of felt like I hit a wall where if you read enough business books, this is going to sound like I'm bragging. It's more just that like I think I hit a wall in the current wave of them. If you read enough business books, you start to see that they're all quoting each other, and I got to the point where I was starting to read books where like everything they were bringing up was referencing a book that I'd already read. And I was like, I'm not learning anything new at this point. I'm sort of getting like new riffs on the same general concepts. And I don't know that like additional precision on this idea is what's important. I think execution is important. So I decided to put down the business books for a while. I have a few that are on my list that I need to read, mostly around like leadership and stuff like that. How much time do I spend reading? I probably read about an hour a day would be like a rough estimate, and that'll go up and down a little bit. I read before bed, so like we typically get in bed somewhere between like 9:30, 10:30, and then I'll read until I fall asleep, which is usually like an hour or so later. But like I read a ton on vacation. Vacation tends to be where I do a lot of my like heavier reading. Because this is going to make me sound like such a nerd. My idea of a great vacation, I was in, I had a work offsite in Hawaii at my previous job. And after that, because we were already there, we extended it to a vacation and stayed for an extra 5 days. And it was one of those, we were on one of the islands where, I can't remember, on Maui, I think. And like the whole one of the coast, the whole West Coast, I think, is like resorts. So we stayed in one of the ones that was like right on the beach, and it had all of the, the pool and the cabanas and all that kind of stuff. And what I did for like that whole week was I read like 4 or 5 books and took notes. because I'm like the biggest nerd in the world. And that's my idea of a good time. Is I was like, finally, I have time to like actually pay attention to these books. Because I can't read business books before bed because I don't, I want to like come up with action steps and stuff. And I'm not going to like try to write notes while I'm going to sleep. So I stopped doing that. I used to read when I was working as an executive. I would read at the beginning of the day. Like I would carve out a little time to like dig through some leadership books or whatever, usually like 30 minutes or so that I could get like a chapter or two in and take some notes on it and try to, work that into my like goal setting if it was something that I felt was applicable. But I don't do that anymore. Like it's felt less relevant. I think these days I'm spending much more time these days. My professional stuff is like watching meta YouTube, if that makes sense. I watch a lot of like how to make things on YouTube, like breakdowns of how scenes were created, breakdowns of how things are written, of hey, you've got 90 seconds. Can you do a 3-act story structure in 90 seconds? And here are some examples. So stuff that helps me think more about like what I'm trying to do right now is more of my business focus. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I try to optimize for like what I'm trying to learn right now, if that makes sense. But yeah. All right. So what else we got? What else? Just going back, making sure I didn't miss any books as I was like flurrying through. Oh, design systems that scale. That is a good one. I've had a couple conversations with Dan Mall, and I just find him to be like a fascinating person. Where is this book? Design systems at scale. Where is it? Dan Mall book. Design that scales. Okay, here we go. Yeah, this is like, if you get a chance to listen to Dan Mall talk, which I have a wonderful conversation with him where we did a little bit of like pairing on building out some design system stuff. Dan is very, very, very smart and very fun to talk to. And I ended up like kind of, it was one of those, when you have a conversation that afterward you don't do things the same anymore. I feel like the conversation with Dan was one of those conversations for me where like afterward I made some subtle but significant adjustments to the way that I work that I've never reverted from. So I like it when I talk to people who are like that, who sort of, they can bring a new insight that like fundamentally shifts, like doesn't change, like doesn't about face the way that you work, but like gives you some new insight or some new understanding of how different systems or different people work that allows you to kind of say, you know what? Yeah, I am going to change that and it's going to make my life easier. And you just never do things the same again. I love those conversations, and this was one of them. Anyways, I think we're going to call it. I have had a blast today. Thank you all so much for hanging out. I am back on Thursday. I guess I'm already on the site here, so let me head over to the schedule. We're doing some Quick and Astro. The Quick team and the Astro team did some awesome work to make it possible to ship Quick components inside of an Astro site. This is a big deal because, like, Astro does things that I love. Quick does things that I love. I had originally thought that those things were mutually exclusive. The resumability aspect of Quick is so freaking cool. We've got episodes on that. You should watch them. They're very, very interesting. You can just search, just Command K and Quick. We got stuff. We got a lot of Quick going on in here. We've also got a lot on Astro and why I think the Astro approach of like no JavaScript by default and selective hydration, bringing in the islands architecture, whatever you want to call it. why I find that to be like the right default for web projects in 24. I've also covered that on my YouTube channel. Let's see here. This is a good one on why I'm choosing Astro as my default most of the time. So I had thought, though, that there was not really an easy way to overlap like how Quick and Astro work into something that works together, right? They figured it out. I haven't tried it yet. I've been intentionally holding off so that Steve can teach me. So that's going to be a whole lot of fun. Make sure you show up on Thursday to see that one. And then next week, we're live in the studio, weather permitting. We got snowed out last time. It doesn't look like that's going to happen again. So Adam's going to be here. We're going to do he's got a really cool project. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's a lot. It's going to be CSS. It's going to be the audio interface. It's going to be a bunch of cool stuff. So stay tuned for that one. We're going to do it live in the studio. And then some little bonuses are going to come out of that you'll see hopefully soon after that episode. But make sure you mark your calendar. Remember, you can subscribe on like this video on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're feeling generous, you can support my work by joining the YouTube channel. I have you get exclusive access to videos a few days early. You also get some subscriber only content like longer cuts of 4 web devs. You get access to a private channel on the Learn with Jason Discord, and it helps me to make content that doesn't require corporate sponsorship, which means that I can do stuff that is not, I don't have to figure out how to make it business motivated. So we can just like, hey, let's play with CSS today, and that's okay because it's sponsored by y'all, and that's what you want to learn, I hope. So yeah, if you're feeling generous, that it's like $5. It helps me a ton, and makes a big difference in what I'm able to create and how much I stress about money every month. Also, get on the newsletter or wherever you prefer to get notified about things to make sure that you stay up to date. As always, friends, it has been an absolute ran out of words right there at the end. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you all so much for hanging out, and we'll see you Thursday.